Chapter 631. Xiao Xiaobai and Hao Tongtong were holding hands, panicking. Mao Guang's partner was also holding Mao Guang's hand, not knowing what to do. Someone's here. Xiao Qin was practically shouting this. Just as everyone was starting to lose hope, his sixth sense discovered a cultivator. He didn't know how strong this person was, but this was great news. Xiao Qin was so happy that even his tone changed a little. Mao Guang and the other three tried their best to look ahead, but they didn't see anything. Master Xiao, are you hallucinating? Mao Guang sighed, disappointed. As soon as he said this, Xiao Xiaobai jumped up excitedly. There's someone here. That's right, there's someone here. This is great. Oh. Mao Guang paused and turned his head, and as expected, there was a figure walking over from afar. This made him very happy, and before the cultivator even got close, he was already calling out excitedly, "Friend, are you here to learn martial arts? Is there anyone else here?" The person paused when he saw Xiao Chen's group, but nodded. That's right, what is it? I'd like to ask, how do I learn martial arts here? May I ask where you're going, friend? Why don't we go together? Mao Guang said quickly. Behind you. The man pointed behind him and said, "There's no need, I'm leaving this place." With that, he didn't linger, walking past Xiao Chen as if in a hurry to go somewhere. Friend, can you stay for a moment? Can you tell us what's going on here? Is there anyone else? You're leaving. How? Mao Guang asked a bunch of questions. The person seemed to be getting impatient, and pointed behind him again. Everything you need to know is at the back. I don't have time for you right now, I'm going to test out my martial arts. After saying that, he quickly left without looking back. Xiao Chen looked at the man's back as he left. He was slightly puzzled. From the man's dirty and tattered clothes, he could tell that he had been here for a long time. It was impossible for him to have just arrived. His hair and beard were very long. It was obvious that he hadn't trimmed them for a long time. This meant that this person had been here for a period of time, and he was rushing to the other side, saying that he wanted to leave and verify something. Could it be that the other side was the exit? However, what this person said and what he wanted to know were all in the back, which was the direction they were heading in. Could it be that there were really answers there? Xiao Xiaobai hesitated. Let's go this way. Since he came this way, there must be something there. We can't give up. Mao Guang saw them, and suddenly regained his confidence. Everyone, keep it up. Xiao Chen nodded. He also wanted to see what was going on. Although that person looked impatient, he didn't seem to be lying. All right. Xiao Xiaobai saw that Xiao Chen had agreed, and so he brought his partner along with them. Mao Guang was in high spirits now, and he didn't feel bored at all. They walked for another 3 days, and finally, they could vaguely see a group of people in front of them. There are people, and more than one. This is great. That friend didn't lie to us. There are people here. Mao Guang cried out excitedly. Xiao Xiaobai's heart skipped a beat, and he let out a sigh of relief. He pulled his partner forward quickly, and Xiao Chen, on the other hand, was a little excited. Would his father be among these people? As the 5 of them approached, they could see that the end of the sand valley was not far away. At the end, there was a cliff blocking their way. It seemed that this wasn't some great circulation, but that this sand valley was just that long. On top of the cliff was a crack that descended from the heavens. They didn't know how tall the cliff was, but it pierced straight into the misty sky. The crack was also from top to bottom, so they couldn't see how high it was. There were many people sitting cross-legged in front of the cliff. Some had their eyes closed in contemplation, some had their brows furrowed, some were happy, and some were yelling. Who knew what they were doing? There were also some people on the 2 sides of the sand valley not far away. They were continuously executing martial techniques at the sand valley. There were all sorts of martial techniques. However, it was unknown what they were attacking. The sand valley's walls caved in from the attacks, but it was immediately filled up by the sand and returned to its original state. These people. What are they doing? Xiao Xiaobai asked, confused. Excuse me, what are you guys doing? Mao Guang cupped his fist. But no one paid attention to him. Everyone was busy with their own things, and no one even looked at them. Xiao Chen looked at them and frowned. They're probably learning techniques, but they're too focused, or maybe they don't want to talk to us at all. Oh? Mao Guang's eyes lit up, and he nodded in agreement. Indeed, judging from their expressions, they're probably practicing martial arts. Those people who are using techniques must have learned something, and they're testing it out on the side. At that moment, one of the people sitting cross-legged on the ground suddenly laughed and stood up, going to the side to practice. Mao Guang quickly walked up and cupped his fist. Brother, may I ask if you've learned the technique? Indeed, I was just about to test it out. The person paused, not expecting someone to talk to him, but he nodded anyway. Then can you tell me what's going on here? How do I learn it? Mao Guang asked. I don't have time, I'm going to test it out. Get out of the way. The person said impatiently, as if he was going to use the technique the next moment. Brother, you should at least drink some water or eat something. I have some rations in my backpack, do you want some? Mao Guang said. Eat my ass. Get out of the way, or I won't go easy on you. The person's aura changed, revealing that he was a fourth-stage martial practitioner. This gave Mao Guang a fright, and he quickly got out of the way. Seeing that Mao Guang knew his place, the person nodded and said, sit there and meditate. Try to communicate with the martial intent of Dune Valley. Then, he started to use his martial skills on the walls of the Sand Valley. Ping ping pang pang. But Mao Guang's next sentence made Xiao Chen think of something. We haven't eaten anything in the past few days? Mao Guang paused. Indeed, they hadn't eaten anything since entering Dune Valley. They'd even eaten some rations when they were outside, and now that they'd been here for more than 10 days, they hadn't had a single drop of water. But they didn't feel anything wrong. Everyone was nervous here, and since it wasn't night, they were counting time on their watches, so they didn't think about eating. They didn't even feel sleepy. This Dune Valley is weird. We don't feel tired or sleepy, and we don't feel hungry. I think the energy here is keeping us alive. Xiao Chen said. He was a cultivator, and it was fine even if he didn't eat for a few days. Mao Guang, on the other hand, was a martial practitioner, and he was fine as well. Plus, the martial practitioner had said that there was no need to eat here. This really is a great place. Mao Guang sighed. Let's give it a try. With that, Mao Guang sat down cross-legged impatiently and closed his eyes, starting to comprehend the Tao. The others did the same, imitating him. Xiao Chen wasn't in a rush. He was here to find his father, Xiao Feng, so he started looking for him among the cultivators. There were a lot of cultivators here. As far as the eye could see, there were at least a few hundred of them. Xiao Chen had to spend a lot of effort to find them one by one. However, everyone was busy comprehending the Tao and practicing their martial skills. No one paid any attention to Xiao Chen. Who cared if he was walking back and forth? Finally, Xiao Chen looked through all of them, but didn't see his father anywhere. This made him a little disappointed. It seemed like his father wasn't here, but he might have already left. After all, hadn't the cultivator he'd met earlier said that he was going out? It seemed like the other side of Dune Valley was where they left. With that thought, Xiao Chen wasn't in a hurry. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. Since there were so many martial and demonic cultivators here, all of them meditating, it meant that this place wasn't just a rumor. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people here. Thinking up to this point, Xiao Chen found a corner, sat down cross-legged, and began to meditate. In truth, he did not know how he was supposed to comprehend it. He could only imitate the way others did. After closing his eyes, his mind became clear. At first, Xiao Chen couldn't feel anything at all, he just felt a little drowsy, but he couldn't fall asleep. He didn't know what kind of energy existed here, but as long as he was in Dune Valley, he wouldn't feel tired. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, suddenly, a faintly discernible feeling seemed to circulate around Xiao Chen's mind. He quickly caught hold of this feeling. It seemed to be an aura from ancient times. Although he closed his eyes, in his mind, he could see the crack on the cliff, and that aura seemed to come from the crack. Xiao Chen had already guessed that this aura should be the martial intent that the cultivator had mentioned before. He actually succeeded. Xiao Chen was pleasantly surprised, because he saw that many people nearby didn't feel anything. After a period of time, they would open their eyes, scratch their ears and cheeks, or get up and change places to continue. These people obviously didn't comprehend anything, otherwise they wouldn't be like this. Chapter 632. What kind of cultivator would stand up midway and change places? Xiao Chen didn't think that he would be so lucky. Perhaps it was because he was a true cultivator that he had only used a few days of effort to feel the martial intent. Feeling this hazy martial intent, Xiao Chen unconsciously began to imagine a scene in his mind. There was a person holding a long saber in his hand, constantly practicing something in the Sand Valley. And as this person appeared, the martial intent became increasingly clear, making Xiao Chen feel as if he was immersed in it. Subconsciously, Xiao Chen seemed to have entered the picture formed by the aura of the martial intent. He looked at the person and slowly approached him. Before he had even taken a few steps, he felt a fierce murderous aura. So strong. Xiao Chen was still far away from the person, but he was already startled. What a powerful martial skill this was. It was as if this fierce murderous aura would immediately bounce him away. The saber swept out, and the murderous aura was like the saber had turned into a substance, sweeping across Xiao Chen's body. Xiao Chen felt as if his entire body was being torn apart, and the clothes on his body were also riddled with holes. He subconsciously took 2 steps back, and the second saber followed. He felt several more scars appear all over his body. Was this a world of thoughts, or did it really exist? Xiao Chen took a deep breath and retreated again, not daring to take even half a step closer. Because Xiao Chen was far away, the murderous aura had dissipated. He stared intently at the figure not too far away. In the Sand Valley, the figure was wielding the long saber back and forth. The saber shadows crisscrossed, and the sides of the nearby Sand Valley became uneven. Although it quickly recovered, the damage caused by the martial skill was far greater than Xiao Chen's. His saber could completely sink the side of the Sand Valley. Although it was only for a short period of time, and then it would quickly recover. But this was a characteristic of the Sand Valley. But from the depth of the depression, one could see that the strength of this saber was by no means ordinary. While Xiao Chen was secretly amazed, the figure's movements suddenly changed. From the original ordinary practice, it seemed like he was about to start activating a big move. The figure suddenly leaped up, and then swiftly slashed out with his saber. In an instant, it brought about thousands upon thousands of saber shadows that flickered with silver light. It was a dazzling sight, and the killing intent produced by this saber instantly caused Xiao Chen to feel as if he couldn't breathe. He subconsciously took another 2 steps back. Amazing. Xiao Chen was shocked. He was so far away, but he was still affected by the killing intent of this move. How fierce was this? To be able to cause damage to the enemy from such a distance, just how powerful was this move? One move after another. Once this move was activated, the next move would be ready. The figure began to incessantly activate his big move. A terrifying murderous aura surged over like a tidal wave. Xiao Chen's scalp went numb. He only felt that if he were to face this mighty figure, he would be captured without putting up a fight. He wouldn't even have the chance to attack before he would be cleaved into 2 by this person's saber. Xiao Chen felt that the murderous aura produced by this saber's shadow could practically tear the entire Dao Comprehension Sand Valley to pieces. Perhaps this Dao Comprehension Sand Valley had been carved out by this figure's saber? Only such a capable person could possess such immense strength. However, gradually, Xiao Chen's mind was no longer filled with murderous aura. Instead, he began to form a connection with the figure. Slowly, he could see the saber's shadow's traces clearly. He subconsciously began to follow the figure and activating the dark flame palm, imitating the figure. When the figure slashed out with his saber, Xiao Chen would strike out with his palm. At the beginning, the power of Xiao Chen's martial technique was only ordinary. It could only leave a small hole on the side walls of the sand valley. However, gradually, the hole became bigger and bigger. Xiao Chen couldn't help but be overjoyed. This meant that his martial technique was improving. Could it be that he had really comprehended something from this? However, he had a vague feeling that there was something strange about this. This was because the dark flame palm was still the same dark flame palm. The circulation method had not changed, and the method of activation had not changed either. Could such a huge change be achieved just by following the figure's execution? At this moment, the figure suddenly leaped up. It looked like he was about to activate an even more powerful big move. Xiao Chen was shocked. He hurriedly watched carefully without blinking. He saw the figure rise into the air and quickly turn around in the air. Suddenly, he attacked. It was a saber slash at Xiao Chen. Although the two of them were quite a distance apart, Xiao Chen felt intense pain all over his body at this moment. The overwhelming shadow of the blade swept towards him and a tearing pain surged through his entire body. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying, landing heavily on the ground not far away. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. His face was a little pale, but he didn't retreat. Instead, he slowly stood up and raised his right hand. He imitated the figure just now and activated the dark flame palm. Boom! A mountain-splitting and sea-splitting aura surged out from Xiao Chen's palm. Like a long saber cutting through the air, it smashed into the sand valley's side wall. This palm seemed to directly break the sand valley's side wall. The murderous intent was awe-inspiring. Was this the power of this martial technique? Xiao Chen was completely shocked. He did not expect himself to be able to activate such a powerful palm strike. If he were to use it outside, it would not be a problem for him to surpass his cultivation level. It could even be said that martial masters in the 3rd or 4th layer would be killed instantly by him. It would be child's play. This was simply raising the combat power of a martial technique to the limit. At this moment, Xiao Chen suddenly recovered from his previous enlightenment. He opened his eyes and saw that he was still sitting cross-legged in the sand valley. His clothes weren't torn and he wasn't injured. Everything that had happened just now was all an illusion. It was a form of communication through consciousness. It wasn't real. Xiao Chen stood up and came to an empty side wall of the sand valley. He circulated the mantra, raised his palm, and slapped the side wall of the sand valley. Boom! An unparalleled aura surged out. The side wall of the sand valley was directly blasted by Xiao Chen. Although it quickly returned to normal, its power was countless times stronger. Could it be that all of this was real? Had he already comprehended this martial technique and fused it for his own use? Xiao Chen was a little shocked. He tried to activate his palm again, but it was still the same. The power was so great that it surprised Xiao Chen. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Then, he turned to look at the others. Some people were comprehending, while others were practicing. However, those who were practicing did not fully comprehend it. Some people only comprehended a part of it before returning to reality and starting to experiment. These people would continue to comprehend after experimenting. However, not far from Xiao Chen, a person was also activating a powerful martial technique. This person's strength seemed to be only at the 1st level of a martial master, but the martial technique he was activating shocked Xiao Chen. Although it wasn't as powerful as Xiao Chen's dark flame palm, it wasn't bad either. He was actually activating a martial technique that was similar to the 5th or 6th level of a martial master. If this happened outside, it would simply be shocking. Ha ha ha, it's done. I've finally comprehended the heavenly Tao and fused the martial technique. Ha ha ha, if I go out, I'll be invincible under the same level. That person laughed excitedly. Even if I have to fight an opponent of a higher level, it won't be a problem. May I ask if you've succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao and want to go out? Xiao Chen asked. Xiao Chen had also succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao and fused the martial technique. Therefore, there was no point in staying here any longer. His main purpose here was to find his father. Since his father wasn't here, it was better to leave as soon as possible. It just so happened that he didn't know how to get out. This person seemed to know and was about to leave. Xiao Chen planned to go with him. What? You actually noticed me? That person was shocked after hearing Xiao Chen's words. He activated the martial technique and then laughed wildly towards the sky. It was all subconscious, but he didn't want others to know that he had succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao. Because if someone knew and spread the news, how would he deal with them? Although he could fight an opponent of a higher level, if a 10th level martial master suddenly appeared, then no matter how powerful he was, it would be useless. Xiao Chen was a little stunned. Yes, I want to go out. Do you know how to go out? How about we go together? Humph. That person coldly snorted and suddenly attacked without warning. It was obvious that he wanted to silence Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen didn't expect that this person would actually raise his hand and attack. He was caught off guard. He was stunned and hurriedly responded. A dark flame palm struck out and collided with that person's palm. Boom! With a loud sound, that person was directly sent flying. Although he wasn't directly beaten to death, he was covered in dust and vomited blood. You also succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao? That person originally thought that Xiao Chen didn't succeed in comprehending the heavenly Tao, so he wanted to silence Xiao Chen. However, since Xiao Chen had succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao, why would he still kill him? The two of them had a common secret. Even if they went out together, they would still keep it a secret. Xiao Chen looked at that person's expression and listened to his words. He roughly guessed why this person wanted to attack. He was a little speechless. The person who had succeeded in comprehending the heavenly Tao in the Sand Valley had just been unwilling to pay attention to them. However, he didn't raise his hand to kill them. Of course, it was also possible that he didn't attack because there were many of them. This person saw that Xiao Chen was alone, so he attacked. That's right. Xiao Chen nodded. Alright, in that case, let's go together, that person said. Xiao Chen checked his body. That person didn't cause him any harm. Although the power of that person's martial arts technique was equivalent to the 5th or 6th stage of a martial master. No. Xiao Chen was suddenly shocked. His joy at the improvement of his martial arts technique instantly vanished. The martial arts technique that person displayed just now was indeed at the 5th or 6th stage of a martial master. However, when it hit Xiao Chen's body, Xiao Chen felt that it was only at the 1st stage of a martial master. It was not at the 5th or 6th stage at all. Chapter 633. In other words, the damage this person's technique dealt to him was equal to the person's own strength. What was going on? At the thought, Xiao Chen glanced at the person. That move he'd used in a hurry and hadn't used his full strength, but even so, Xiao Chen's technique could instantly kill a 4th or 5th level martial master, so why couldn't he kill a 1st level martial master? At this moment, he suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. There was something strange about this Sand Valley. I'm not leaving, you go first. Xiao Chen waved his hand. I'm going to continue my enlightenment. Oh, do whatever you want. The person frowned, but didn't say anything else. He turned around and left. Xiao Chen waited for that person to leave before launching another attack at the side wall of the Dune Valley. Boom! Not bad, it was equivalent to a 5th or 7th level martial master, but who would believe that a technique like this couldn't even kill a 1st level martial master? Could it be that the technique's corresponding defense had increased as well? That was impossible, because if one's own strength hadn't increased, how could one's defense have increased? Xiao Chen was a bit doubtful. This wasn't normal at all. Whether it was the power of the technique or the dent on the side walls, it seemed like the technique had increased, but when it actually hit a person, there was no such increase in power. All of a sudden, Xiao Chen realized something. That's right, were those people who had comprehended the martial skill really able to hide themselves after leaving the Tao Comprehension Sand Valley? Even if those martial masters hid themselves, had there been no general-level masters who'd come here before? What else did these general-level experts need to hide? Why hadn't there been any news at all? Mao Guang had mentioned this before, and Xiao Chen had thought that it made sense, but now that he thought about it, it didn't make sense at all. There were no airtight walls in this world, and from the looks of it, there were people who'd left in a few days, so how could they not have displayed their techniques in front of others? Then what did he improve? Was it just for show? But if that was the case, then what was the point of this Sand Valley of Enlightenment? Nothing improved. Did he come here for nothing? That's right, there's something wrong with this valley. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice rang out beside Xiao Chen's ear. Elder Heaven Ancestor, you think there's something wrong too? Xiao Chen was even more certain of his suspicions after hearing Elder Heaven Ancestor's words. I felt something was wrong before. This valley can actually provide you with energy, so you don't need to eat to maintain your bodily functions. Then, I think there's something wrong with this enlightenment as well. Old Sky said, I have been paying attention to you. On the surface, the power of the martial skill you activated has increased by a lot. However, from my point of view, I can tell that the power has not increased at all. It is still the same martial skill from before. It is just that the appearance has become stronger. I think so too. Since that's the case, what's the use of it? Xiao Chen asked curiously. I suspect that someone is controlling this entire valley from behind the scenes, Elder Heaven Ancestor said. His words gave Xiao Chen a fright. He wanted to jump up and cry out in alarm, but Elder Heaven Ancestor hurriedly reminded him, don't act blindly without thinking. I suspect that your every move is being monitored. Don't do anything. If our guess is right, dealing with you in someone else's territory will be a piece of cake. All right. Xiao Chen said calmly. He had communicated with Elder Heaven Ancestor through his spiritual sea, so the outside world couldn't sense it. Then what should I do now? Leave this place? Leave? Do you really think there's such a good thing? That you can leave at will? Elder Heaven Ancestor poured cold water on Xiao Chen, which made him calm down. That's right. If there really is someone manipulating all of this behind the scenes in Sand Valley, it would be unbelievable for him to make so many disguises and deceive so many people just to trick them into leaving, unless this person is a psychopath with a bad taste. Xiao Chen also figured this out. If that was the case, then those who said they would leave should not have left. They should have been tricked by the person behind to do something. Yes, so you are now in a dilemma. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, in this place, the entire Sand Valley could be controlled. Even I can't do anything about it. If Elder Heaven Ancestor couldn't do anything, then Xiao Chen didn't know what to do. He regretted coming here, but it was useless. The most important thing now was to find a way out. Elder Heaven Ancestor, then it's meaningless for me to stay here. Why don't we go over there and see what this person wants to do? Xiao Chen asked. No, you continue to comprehend. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, but this time, you use martial arts. Don't use the dark flame palm. You use the Samadhi True Fire Fireball technique. Oh. Why is that? Xiao Chen asked, feeling somewhat confused. Isn't it the same no matter what you activate? It's not the same. Elder Heaven Ancestor smiled and said, martial arts can create an illusion to deceive you, but the Samadhi True Fire can't. If the Samadhi True Fire improves, then it improves. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. This is a cultivator's skill. You should be able to feel whether the temperature of the true fire has changed or not. This is to judge from the inside, not from the outside. Yes. Xiao Chen immediately understood what Elder Heaven Ancestor meant. Since there was someone behind it, then if Xiao Chen used the Samadhi True Fire and couldn't improve his martial arts, then wouldn't it be a failure? If he didn't want to fail, then the person would inevitably take some action. Either this person would show up, or they would certainly take some remedial measures. It was impossible to just let it go. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen sat down cross-legged once again. He closed his eyes and began to communicate with the aura of the martial intent. Very quickly, Xiao Chen connected with the martial intent and once again entered the consciousness space. It was the same shadow that was brandishing the saber, exactly the same as before. That dark flame palm just now isn't my main martial arts, so it's useless to improve it. Xiao Chen said to himself. Now, I need to improve my main martial arts. The shadow didn't seem to hear Xiao Chen's words and continued to practice the martial arts. Xiao Chen also followed him and began to urge the Samadhi true fire, one after another. Sure enough, just like what Elder Heaven Ancestor said, the Samadhi true fire was fire. Even if it hit the side of the sand valley, it wouldn't make any dent. Fire was invisible, so how could it have any effect on the side of the sand valley? Oh. That's not right, why didn't it improve? Xiao Chen said to himself with some doubt. It can't be, right? It clearly had an effect just now. The shadow seemed to have paused for a moment. However, it was only an imperceptible moment. Xiao Chen wasn't sure whether the shadow had paused or not, but he still continued to urge the shadow. There's still no effect. This sand valley isn't deceiving people, right? Xiao Chen said tentatively. I have to ask others if there is such a situation. As soon as Xiao Chen said this, the shadow's figure paused again. This time, it was very obvious that Xiao Chen had noticed it. Sure enough. Xiao Chen was shocked. This shadow had a consciousness. Whatever he said and did, he knew it. It wasn't a martial intent. However, Xiao Chen naturally pretended not to know. He continued to urge the martial arts and said, could it be that my practice was wrong? Xiao Chen seemed to feel a surge of resentment coming from the shadow's body. He was angry. Xiao Chen was pleasantly surprised. This person had feelings and was angered by him. However, following that, Xiao Chen felt as if something had appeared in his mind. An ancient aura shrouded his entire body. Xiao Chen was shocked. Was this person trying to harm him? However, after being shrouded by this aura, he didn't feel any discomfort in his body. Instead, he felt a powerful heaven and earth aura pouring into his meridians. What was the meaning of this? Xiao Chen was shocked. Where did this heaven and earth aura come from? Moreover, wasn't this heaven and earth aura a little too rich? It was so rich that Xiao Chen was a little shocked. This heaven and earth aura was richer than any heaven and earth aura he had ever seen. It had even surpassed the heaven and earth spirit jades. Xiao Chen, this person is anxious. He wants to use the bone washing method to improve your martial arts. The elder heaven ancestor's teasing voice sounded in Xiao Chen's ear. Now I can be sure of one thing. Although this person is the person behind the Sand Valley, he can't act recklessly in the Sand Valley. He can only establish contact with the people of the Sand Valley through telepathy. However, if he wants to harm the people of the Sand Valley, that should be impossible. Oh. Through bone and marrow cleansing? Xiao Chen was stunned. That's right. Warriors actually don't need the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. What they cultivate is strength. Even devil cultivators obtain their strength through some heavenly materials and earthly treasures and pills. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth is only effective for cultivators like you. Warriors actually don't know how to use it. The elder heaven ancestor said, however, rich heaven and earth aura can wash a martial artist's marrow and bones. It's just like how your medicinal dregs can also wash a martial artist's marrow and bones. Oh. In that case, this person is afraid that I will tell others, so he plans to use this method to improve my physical fitness in order to achieve the goal of improving my martial arts strength? Xiao Chen understood. That should be the case. In this way, if you are a martial artist, then your physical strength won't be improved. Only your aptitude will change, so the power of your martial arts will naturally increase. The elder heaven ancestor said with a smile, it seems like this person is anxious. This martial arts technique of yours might seem strange. From the outside, it can't transform into an increase in power. After all, how can that fireball improve? Therefore, you can only increase the power of your martial arts through genuine internal improvement. Chapter 634. Then what should I do now? Xiao Chen asked. Are you stupid or stubborn? What else can you do? There's so much spiritual energy here, it's a waste not to use it. Quickly absorb it and cultivate. The elder heaven ancestor said, this is a great place. You won't be able to find it even if you wanted to. In the cultivation world, this kind of place is rare. Oh. Xiao Chen nodded quickly and began to use the mantra. He began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth like crazy. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth flowed through Xiao Chen's meridians. It was so refreshing. If my guess is correct, the spirit stones that you used to enter the gate have all been taken away by this fellow. Previously, the energy that kept you from starving in the Sand Valley came from the spirit stones. The spiritual energy of the world was also extracted by the person behind the scenes of the Sand Valley and placed here. Elder Tian said. Wahaha, how many spiritual stones did that cost? I've struck it rich this time. Xiao Chen was overjoyed and quickly cultivated. Soon, Xiao Chen had entered a state of selflessness. He was crazily absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in front of him. As he absorbed, he subconsciously muttered, rest for a while. I'll continue practicing martial skills later. I don't believe that I won't improve. The figures seemed to be very satisfied with Xiao Chen's current cooperation. Using spiritual energy to cleanse Xiao Chen's marrow and bones was not something that could be done overnight. If Xiao Chen continued to use martial skills at different times, it would inevitably affect the effect. Now that Xiao Chen was sitting cross-legged on the ground and resting, it was the perfect time to cleanse his marrow and bones. However, what the figure didn't know was that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rushing into Xiao Chen's meridians at a terrifying speed. It circulated rapidly in Xiao Chen's meridians and finally gathered in his dantian. However, very soon, the figure felt that something was wrong. Why was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in front of Xiao Chen becoming less and less? What kind of trash physique was this person? How could he waste so much spiritual energy to cleanse his marrow and bones? He had no choice but to continue replenishing Xiao Chen's heaven and earth spiritual qi. Since he was replenishing himself, Xiao Chen pretended not to notice. He absorbed the spiritual qi of heaven and earth at an incomparably rapid speed, not resting for even a moment. This spirit qi was quickly converted into Xiao Chen's essence qi, accumulating bit by bit in his dantian. From the peak of level 10 of the qi refinement realm, Xiao Chen rushed all the way to the peak of the qi refinement realm. Then, with the continuous impact of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, Xiao Chen only felt a shock in his body. Inside his dantian, something seemed to have broken through. The originally small dantian actually became bigger. If his dantian was like a lake before, then it was now like a vast river, incomparably vast. Xiao Chen was shocked. Is this the foundation building stage? Because he could feel that this was a completely new realm, making him feel like a dragon rising to the heavens. He had suddenly broken free of the shackles, and his strength seemed to have soared by more than one level. Just as Xiao Chen wanted to continue absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to consolidate his foundation building stage, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in front of him began to dissipate. The figure also felt the change in Xiao Chen's physique, so he quickly withdrew the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. This is 2F** King fraudulent. The figure was about to cry. In just a short while, Xiao Chen had consumed a few hundred spiritual stones. Energy should not be consumed in this way. He could only collect 2 spiritual stones for each person who came in. The stock that he had accumulated for a long time was wasted by this kid. This F** King garbage physique actually used so many spiritual stones to cleanse the marrow and bones. 2 garbage, really 2 garbage. The figure cursed in his heart, but did not dare to show it. He continued to practice his martial arts skills. Xiao Chen also knew that enough was enough. Although he felt a little regretful, he still stood up and said, Hey, why do I feel so relaxed and comfortable? Could it be that I'm a genius and suddenly gained enlightenment again? That must be it. Wahahaha, I'm too much of a genius. When the figure heard this, he wanted to vomit blood. King hell, if you were a genius, then there would be no good-for-nothings. A good-for-nothing, a big piece of trash. He had vaguely scanned Xiao Chen's body just now. This kind of good-for-nothing body could actually cultivate to become a martial master. It was really a miracle. Who knew how many treasures of heaven and earth he had consumed to achieve his current strength? Logically speaking, this kind of garbage physique should not be able to cultivate at all. Even the first level of a martial warrior would be very difficult. However, his thinking was not wrong. From the perspective of a martial cultivator or a demonic cultivator, Xiao Chen was indeed a good-for-nothing. If he did not cultivate, he would really be a good-for-nothing. Xiao Chen activated a fireball technique and was immediately overjoyed. The difference between the Qi refinement stage and the Qi refinement stage was like night and day. Now, Xiao Chen felt that his fireball technique was enough to burn a third or fourth layer martial master to death. Hey, but why is this martial arts skills improvement so limited? It doesn't feel like it's improving as fast as the dark flame palm. But this is my main martial arts skill. What's going on? Xiao Chen said with some puzzlement, I have to go out and ask the others to see if they are also like this. If some of their martial arts can't be improved so much, I have to exchange pointers with them. After Xiao Chen said this, although the figure was still brandishing his saber, it was obvious that a powerful rage was being emitted from the figure's body. However, it was very well concealed. Xiao Chen secretly laughed. It seemed that this figure was very afraid of him communicating with others. However, this made Xiao Chen very puzzled. After so long, with so many people here, did the others not communicate? In fact, it was understandable. Everyone was very guarded when it came to martial arts cultivation. They would keep their own secrets and no one would share their experience with others. This could be seen from the person who wanted to kill Xiao Chen to silence him. If someone succeeded in comprehending the Tao, they would not easily tell others. This also gave the figure behind the Sand Valley an opportunity. However, he did not expect that there would be such an exception like Xiao Chen. However, in the next moment, the overwhelming spiritual energy swept over again. The figure also clearly discovered that Xiao Chen's body was too trashy and useless. How did this person become a martial master? It was too strange. Just now, so much spiritual energy was thrown over, but it seemed to have little effect. If it was any other martial artist, they would have already been transformed into a peerless genius. When Xiao Chen felt the spiritual energy coming again, he was immediately overjoyed. He quickly sat cross-legged and said, It seems that the comfortable feeling from just now is coming again. I can sit cross-legged on the ground and continue to comprehend the Tao. I am really a genius to be able to find such a convenient method. I don't even need to practice martial arts. The figure was so angry that he cursed in his heart. Motherf *Ker, you are a piece of trash that only appears once in 1,000 years. Xiao Chen hurriedly cultivated like crazy. This was a very rich spiritual energy. If he missed this opportunity, there would be no such opportunity. Therefore, Xiao Chen took advantage of the fact that this figure was easy to deceive and began to cultivate like crazy. Xiao Chen, be careful. Don't go too far. Don't expose yourself. The elder heaven ancestor reminded him. I understand. However, this is a good opportunity. If I don't take advantage of it, I really don't know how long I will have to wait. Right now, I don't have any spiritual jades. Cultivation is getting harder and harder. If I don't have any opportunities, I won't be able to advance. Therefore, even if it's risky, I have to give it my all. Xiao Chen said. How could he not know that he was asking a tiger for its skin? However, there was no other way. The temptation of this spiritual energy was too great. The elder heaven ancestor did not say anything else. Anyway, it seemed that there was no danger at the moment. The foundation building realm was completely different from the qi refining realm. Xiaochen felt that his dantian was very big. No matter how much he absorbed the spiritual energy, it was still not enough. His strength was also increasing very slowly. Even though Xiaochen had already prepared himself mentally, he still felt helpless about this situation. It was really too slow. If it was like this in such a dense spiritual energy, how difficult would it be to reach the peak of the first level of foundation building? Under Xiaochen's frenzied absorption, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in front of him became thinner and thinner. The figure seemed to have noticed this as well. Left with no other choice, he replenished Xiaochen's spiritual energy. Xiaochen did not care about him. He continued to absorb spiritual energy like crazy. The spiritual energy flowed into his body. Seeing that it was about to be used up, Xiaochen wondered if the figure would replenish more spiritual energy for him. However, Xiaochen was disappointed. His method of wasting spiritual energy was so wasteful that even the figure could not take it. The figure seemed to let out a low growl. He felt a little heartache and unwillingness, so he did not continue to replenish spiritual energy for Xiaochen. The figure was about to go crazy from anger. This person's aptitude was so bad. Why did he enter the Tao Comprehension Sand Valley? He should just be an ordinary person. Which sect was this disciple from? Which sect would accept this kind of trash? He checked and found that Xiaochen's constitution had indeed improved a little, but not much. What he didn't know was that Xiaochen had already used large amounts of medicine to temper his body. The change in his constitution now was only a negligible effect brought about by the increase in strength. Xiaochen knew that it was about time, so he stood up and activated a fireball technique. He then said in surprise, "Ah, that's great. My technique has finally improved. Then I have to get out of here. There's no point in staying here." The figure heaved a sigh of relief, but he cursed in his heart. "Damn it, what did you come here for? Did you have nothing better to do?" Xiaochen returned to reality and stood up. He saw that not far away, Sun Maoguang and Xiao Xiaobai were still comprehending, but Xiaochen couldn't care less about them. He had to leave now. If he caused more trouble, the mastermind of the Sand Valley would explode. Xiaochen didn't hesitate and turned to leave, quickly heading to the other side of the Sand Valley. This time, he was alone and did not travel with anyone else. Hence, Xiaochen was able to travel faster. When the figure saw Xiaochen's speed, he heaved a sigh of relief. So he was a speed-type fighter. However, seeing that his skills were quite solid, he reckoned that he would be of great help to him. In that case, the spiritual qi he had used earlier was not wasted. In any case, wool comes from sheep. With that thought, the figure felt a little better and continued to scam others. He didn't care about Xiaochen anymore. Now that he was there, he would naturally have to work for him. Chapter 635. Although he walked faster than when he came, Xiaochen still walked for a few days before he vaguely saw a plaza-like place not far away. There were many people on the plaza-like place, which made Xiaochen slightly stunned. Wasn't this the exit? Why were there so many people? What were these people doing here instead of leaving? Xiaochen quickened his pace, but he couldn't see the situation in front clearly because it was densely packed with people. He could only find a person on the periphery and ask, "Brother, may I ask, what is this? Isn't this the exit? Why aren't you leaving?" "Leaving? Are you new here?" The person was stunned at first, then he suddenly asked. "Yes, I just succeeded in Tao Enlightenment, so I came over. However, I heard that this is the exit, why can't I get out?" Xiaochen asked curiously. "Don't mention it, there is a formation here. All of us are taking turns to attack the formation. I heard that only by breaking the formation can we get out." The person wiped the sweat on his forehead and said to Xiaochen, "Come and queue with me. Wait for the next round of attacks." "Oh? What do you mean? So many people haven't broken the formation?" Xiaochen was surprised. "Yes, it hasn't been broken since the beginning, so no one has gotten out." The person said gloomily, I've been here for half a year. What? Xiao Chen was shocked. Half a year? Didn't that mean that after the people of Dao Enlightenment Sand Valley came, no one left? Even if they succeeded in Dao Enlightenment, they were all gathered here to break some formation. Sigh, it's nothing to fuss about. I was also shocked when I first came, but I slowly got used to it. What else can we do if we don't break the formation? The person looked at Xiao Chen's expression and said disapprovingly, in a while, when it's our turn, we'll use all our strength to attack the formation. All our strength? Don't tell me that no one is hiding it. Xiao Chen realized that everyone was queuing up, and there were quite a number of people standing behind him. However, they were all orderly, standing in a circle, not fighting or fighting. Hiding what? Who didn't want to go out? Furthermore, it is not too tiring to use martial techniques here. After using all my strength once, I will be able to recover my strength in no time. The man said, I have nothing to do anyway. It's better for me to keep using martial arts to attack the formation. Then why didn't you keep attacking? Why didn't you come down? Xiao Chen asked. That won't do. Won't that be a waste of time? We've agreed that we'll go round by round. Each wave of people will go up and attack once, and then come down. We'll line up at the back and recover our stamina. The next wave of people will go up and attack. This way, we'll be able to unleash the greatest attack power. The man explained, if I were to keep attacking there, no one would be willing to do so. Is that so? From what I can see, there are some people resting nearby. Xiao Chen pointed at a spot not too far away. There were several cultivators resting at the edge of the square. Their attack power is too weak, and they were mocked by others, so they were embarrassed to come up. Also, they felt bored, so they went to stay for a while and came back later. That person said, otherwise, who wouldn't want to attack the formation? Everyone has succeeded in comprehending the Tao, and is looking for a place to display it. That person said. Xiao Chen was somewhat speechless. It turned out that they were not slacking off. The rules here were somewhat strange. After a while, it was Xiao Chen's group's turn. Xiao Chen and that person went up. However, Xiao Chen did not use the fireball technique. Instead, he used the dark flame palm. In front of everyone, there was a cylindrical ice crystal that looked like a crystal. It was impossible to see inside. This pillar flickered with a dazzling silver light, just like an ice lantern. It was very beautiful. Xiao Chen saw that everyone was attacking this pillar with all their might. Perhaps this was the so-called formation. Xiao Chen also slapped it with his palm. However, after he finished, before he could carefully admire it, he heard the others shout, "Let's retreat, next wave." Before Xiao Chen could react, he was pulled to the side by that person, making room for the people behind him. I'm going to rest for a while. You go line up first. Xiao Chen said after being pulled out. Oh, up to you. That person shook his head, as if he was looking down on Xiao Chen. You can't even make one move and you still want to rest. Isn't this too weak? Right now, you might think that you are slacking off. After a long time, you will know how boring it is to sit there. People who have just arrived are all like this. When they are bored, they will discover that attacking this formation is the best way to play. It's just like playing a game, where everyone is fighting the world boss together. At this moment, Xiao Chen was very calm. He walked to the side and found a place to sit down. He felt that this sand valley was filled with strangeness. Previously, he could already conclude that there was someone controlling the sand valley from behind. Then, was there some premeditated plan to attack this cylindrical ice crystal? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. After all, if this sand valley was really the so-called Tao Comprehension Sand Valley, then why was it so easy to enter as long as one had spirit stones, but it was as difficult as ascending to heaven when one wanted to leave? So many martial masters were attacking this cylindrical ice crystal, but there was no effect at all. That person had been attacking it for half a year. These people had been attacking it repeatedly, but they still didn't succeed. This didn't make any sense. In theory, if this sand valley did not have any ill intentions, then one could enter and leave. But from the looks of the current situation, if only one person entered, how could he break the array? Then wouldn't he die of old age here? With so many people unable to break the array, one person would not be able to leave in his lifetime. Unreasonable, absolutely unreasonable. Xiaochen did not know if the others had thought of this point or if they had thought of it. There was no other way. Perhaps in their opinion, breaking the array was the only way. But would breaking the cylindrical ice crystal really allow one to leave? If not for his previous experience, Xiaochen might have believed it. But now, Xiaochen did not believe that the person behind the sand valley was so kind. No matter how he looked at it, Xiaochen felt that he was filled with malice. He made everyone feel that they had gained enlightenment and improved their martial skills. Then, he made everyone hold on to hope and work hard to attack the cylindrical ice crystal. Elder Heaven Ancestor, what do you think? Xiaochen asked. I don't know for the time being, but I think you can try to communicate with that cylindrical ice crystal and see if there is any effect. Elder Heaven Ancestor thought for a moment and suggested. All right. Xiaochen tried to sit cross-legged on the ground and began to communicate with the cylindrical ice crystal, just like how he communicated with the crack. Sure enough, not long after, Xiaochen felt a trace of aura coming from the cylindrical ice crystal. Xiaochen entered another thought and saw that it was the same person from before. He was holding a large saber and slashed at the cylindrical ice crystal. The cylindrical ice crystal shattered and this person was instantly teleported out of the sand valley. If he had not sensed this scene, it would have been fine. But now that he had, Xiaochen was 100% sure that breaking the cylindrical ice crystal was definitely not a good thing. That person had given such a strong hint. Others would definitely believe it, but Xiaochen did not believe it. Xiaochen thought for a moment and decided to give it another try. Then, he carefully observed the cylindrical ice crystal to see if there was any problem. Standing at the back of the queue, he just happened to see that person attack again. Seeing Xiaochen coming over, he couldn't help but laugh. How is it? Didn't I say it? You sitting on the side will get bored very quickly. That's not being lazy, it's just being bored to death. All right. Xiaochen smiled. Oh right, those who have just entered the sand valley, what if they come here? Oh, those who can't come, without successfully comprehending the Tao, there will be a barrier here. You can only see the end of the sand valley, you can't come over. That person said, I went the wrong way before. So that's how it is. Xiaochen nodded his head. After a while, it was Xiaochen's turn to attack that person again. This time, Xiaochen used the fireball technique. A fireball hit the cylindrical ice crystal. Boom, the cylindrical ice crystal was shaken by Xiaochen's attack. It shook twice on the spot, and the surface, after being roasted by the Samadhi true fire, caved in a large area. Although the fireball was extinguished in the end, this move was much stronger than the others' attacks. Everyone looked at Xiaochen with some shock and some surprise. This person was so powerful. They had attacked for so long, but the effect was minimal. This person had caved in with one move. However, Xiaochen didn't care about this. He could clearly feel that there was an excited and joyful aura coming from the cylindrical ice crystal. It seemed that he was very happy that Xiaochen could cause such great damage to it. And at this moment, Xiaochen felt that there seemed to be a black shadow in the cylindrical ice crystal, and this black shadow seemed to be the figure that he saw in his comprehension. Oh. That guy, is he inside? Young hero, you're too awesome. Continue activating your martial arts. The cultivators at the back saw that Xiaochen was so powerful, so they didn't rush to replace him. Instead, they all said to Xiaochen. Xiaochen naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to continue activating his martial arts. His intuition told him that if he really broke the cylindrical ice crystal, it wouldn't end well for him. So, he smiled bitterly and said, this won't do. This move of mine has exhausted all my strength. I need to rest and recover. Oh, so that's how it is. Then hurry up and rest. The crowd didn't suspect anything. After all, the power of this unique skill was shocking. It was normal for Xiao Chen to rest for a while. Thus, Xiao Chen walked to the side to rest. The people behind him also replaced him and continued to attack the cylindrical ice crystal. Elder Heaven Ancestor, do you feel anything? Xiao Chen asked. There's something inside the cylindrical ice crystal. It seems to be a primordial spirit. Elder Heaven Ancestor said slowly, it's a powerful existence. Even I feel a little apprehensive when I sense its aura. Oh? Xiao Chen was slightly shocked. There was a primordial spirit inside the cylindrical ice crystal? Did that mean that it was the mastermind that controlled the entire Dao Enlightenment Sand Valley? Chapter 636. Letting him out is definitely not a good thing. Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly said, I have roughly figured it out. This primordial spirit controls the entire Sand Valley. Those illusions of martial skill advancement are also created by this primordial spirit. That's right, I know, that's exactly it. Xiao Chen nodded. If that's the case, if we break the cylindrical ice crystal, then wouldn't the primordial spirit come out? That should be the case. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. So that's how it is. This sinister fellow. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. Fortunately, he had not foolishly gone up and bombarded the place. Otherwise, he would have been screwed if he had really gotten that primordial spirit out. But, why did he have to create the illusion of comprehending Dao? This is the Dao Enlightenment Sand Valley. If everyone attacked this cylindrical ice crystal the moment they came in, let's not talk about whether they could use their full strength. Even if they could, I feel that they wouldn't be as enthusiastic as they are now. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, if my guess is correct, there must be other ways to leave this Dao Enlightenment Sand Valley. It's just that under the strong hint of the primordial spirit, everyone felt that breaking the cylindrical ice crystal was the only way to leave. If everyone succeeded in Dao Enlightenment, they would be convinced by the figure. If my guess is correct, many people here should have also communicated with the cylindrical ice crystal and received the revelation that as long as they broke the cylindrical ice crystal, they would be able to leave. Because of the advancement of martial skills, they have no doubt that if there were no such illusions, even if someone attacked, there would be someone who would find another way to leave. Once someone succeeds, the primordial spirit will never be able to escape the restraints of this cylindrical ice crystal. So that's how it is. This old fellow is quite sinister. Xiao Chen thought for a moment and said, watch how I take care of him. What are you going to do? Elder Heaven Ancestor was stunned. He, now that we have the great devil, we lack the second devil. And little devil, do you want to find a playmate? Xiao Chen asked with a sinister smile. That's possible, and little demon said. Xiao Chen stretched his body and once again began to communicate with the cylindrical ice crystal. This time, he very quickly entered that thought. Clearly, the primordial spirit was even more anxious than him. As soon as he entered, his primordial spirit kept hinting that he would be able to leave this place after breaking the cylindrical ice crystal. That figure slashed at the cylindrical ice crystal again and again. Xiao Chen, on the other hand, was neither too fast nor too slow. He frowned and said weakly, sigh, that move just now was a bit too big. I almost collapsed. Looks like it's still better for me to use the dark flame palm. This fireball martial skill can easily cause me to collapse and die. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, the figure was obviously a little anxious. How could he do that? The dark flame palm didn't cause any damage to the cylindrical ice crystal, but the fireball spell was different. It could burn a big hole in the cylindrical ice crystal. Therefore, in a moment of desperation, the silhouette began to hint. He threw the knife away and began to throw fireballs at the ice crystal. After a few fireballs, the cylindrical ice crystal shattered. Oh? I realized that if I use the fireball technique to attack, I will be able to leave quickly. Xiao Chen scratched his head and said to himself. When the silhouette heard this, he was so happy that he almost nodded in agreement. However, Xiao Chen's following words almost made him vomit blood. But my body is simply too weak. I can't even activate one move. My kidney is weak. Xiao Chen said with some depression, it seems that I have to eat a few big kidneys after I go back. The silhouette was about to curse. What the **ck are you trying to do? Your garbage physique is useless no matter what you eat. What the **ck, what do you want to do, you weakling? Xiaochen shook his head and said, if it's like before, I can feel my stamina replenishing as soon as I meditate, that'll be great. At that time, my energy will be beyond my imagination. The silhouette clenched his teeth and gathered a lot of spiritual energy around Xiaochen's body. He was thinking, **ck, when I come out in a moment, the first thing I will do is to kill this troublesome trash. It's almost the same as being troublesome for your mother. Not bad, just like this. It's so cool. Xiaochen shouted in comfort, don't stop, don't stop. The silhouette's whole body trembled a little. **ck, are you visiting a brothel? Still don't stop, this is spiritual energy. Xiaochen began to crazily absorb the spiritual energy again. He absorbed as much as he could. It was really cool. He found that this silhouette was really easy to fool. He didn't know how he fooled so many people. The elder heaven ancestor was also a little speechless. This Xiaochen was really a bit of a scammer. But thinking about this guy's character, it was not strange. Xiaochen specialized in scamming his enemies for fun. The silhouette felt that it was about time, so he collected the spiritual energy and continued to hint to Xiaochen that he should quickly go out and make his move. This body of mine, although it's a little better, but I didn't take medicine today, I feel so cute. Xiaochen stood up and said to himself, my aptitude is poor. I have no choice but to be a medicine pot. If I don't take medicine, my whole body will feel uncomfortable and my legs will cramp. I can't use any strength at all. I left in a hurry and forgot to bring medicine. Medicine? The silhouette was stunned. Why does this guy still need to take medicine? Is he sick? But after hearing his words, he immediately understood. This kid's aptitude was trash. It was estimated that the reason he could cultivate to the level of martial master was because of the accumulation of medicine. In that case, this guy must be a second-generation cultivator of some big sect. I'm afraid he is the descendant of the sect leader or the great elder. Otherwise, how could such a trash aptitude be cultivated into a martial master? How many medicinal ingredients would be wasted? If only I have heavenly beard grass, 9 heaven velvet. Xiaochen listed the names of a bunch of medicinal ingredients and said, with these, I can continuously use big moves after taking them. The silhouette was not stupid. He was a little puzzled before, but when he heard Xiaochen ask for things, he became a little suspicious. Even if a normal person needed medicinal ingredients, they would not be able to name all the medicinal ingredients. Who was he talking to? The silhouette now felt that Xiaochen had discovered him and came to ask him for these medicinal ingredients. But if someone said that Xiaochen, with his trash aptitude, could discover him, he also did not believe it. How could a trash like him sense his existence? Moreover, things like primordial spirit were rare. How could this kid know about it? Thinking of this, the silhouette felt that he might be thinking too much. The medicinal ingredients that Xiaochen wanted were very common, so he hinted. He first walked to a corner of the square, then dug up the yellow sand in the corner of the square. He took out a box and opened it. It was filled with all kinds of treasures. Of course, in order to not arouse Xiaochen's suspicion, he deliberately added some other materials. To make it more realistic, he even put in 2 pieces of spiritual jade. The silhouette actually had a lot of property. These things that Xiaochen wanted were really nothing. In his opinion, they were all trash. Oh my god, there are treasures here? Xiaochen was shocked. That's great, I'll go treasure hunting. Looking at Xiaochen's silly look, the silhouette heaved a sigh of relief. This was a simple-minded person. He really thought too much. Xiaochen returned to reality from his thoughts. Then, he quickly found the edge of the sand valley according to the direction that the silhouette had pointed out before and began to dig. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Xiao Chen to dig out a treasure chest. Although Xiao Chen looked happy on the surface, he was shocked in his heart. It seemed that the person behind the scenes' control over the Sand Valley was far beyond Xiao Chen's imagination. He didn't think that these things were buried in advance, because the things inside were what Xiao Chen needed. How could the silhouette have known before? Although most of the people were attacking the cylindrical ice crystal in full swing, some people noticed Xiao Chen. When they saw that he had dug out the treasure, they all gathered around. However, Xiao Chen had already put away the spiritual jades without batting an eyelid. The remaining things were some common goods. What kind of trash is this? The first cultivator who came to take a look took a look and turned away in disgust. The remaining people came to take a look out of curiosity and shook their heads. However, the others who didn't look also left. If it was good stuff, everyone wouldn't have such a reaction. Everyone, please make way. I'm going to use some materials to activate my big move now. Xiao Chen hugged the box, squeezed through the crowd, and ran to the cylindrical ice crystal. Being pushed away, some cultivators were naturally unhappy. However, when they saw that it was Xiao Chen, the young hero who had just entered the cylindrical ice crystal, they all took the initiative to make way. After all, they had been attacking for a long time without any effect. The other person had dented the cylindrical ice crystal with one move, so there must be something special about him. Since this person had come, they would let him go first. Therefore, very soon, Xiao Chen squeezed to the side of the cylindrical ice crystal. Those who were ready to attack also made way to give Xiao Chen a chance to display his skills. Xiao Chen began to follow the instructions of the Elder Heaven Ancestor. He used the materials to arrange a small formation and began to use the Samadhi True Fire to refine the cylindrical ice crystal. He was using the method of refining the ghost talisman devil, so the preparation work was more troublesome. However, the other cultivators couldn't understand it. They all thought that Xiao Chen was going to activate his big move. However, even if they couldn't understand it, it didn't mean that everyone else couldn't understand it. There was indeed someone who understood it, and that was the primordial spirit figure inside the cylindrical ice crystal. What is this kid doing? Why does it feel like what he is doing is somewhat familiar? Where have I seen it before? The primordial spirit figure thought it was a little strange. However, it had been too long, and he couldn't remember it. This kid probably knows some crooked ways to help me break the cylindrical ice crystal, right? The primordial spirit figure thought, and his heart was happy. He was going to get out soon. This was really great. This feeling of being bound was simply too much. In a flash, thousands of years had passed, and he was finally going to be free. Wahahaha. Hey. Something doesn't seem right. After the primordial spirit figure was happy, he looked at Xiao Chen, but found that what he was doing was not just to break the cylindrical ice crystal. Chapter 637. Although the cylindrical ice crystal began to melt under the influence of the fireball spell, he still felt that there was an indescribable strangeness. Since when could this kid use the fireball technique consecutively? It looked like he was being roasted by fire. Did this person's aptitude become better? Could it be that he used up all the materials and suddenly exploded? No, those materials were not used at all. They were piled up around the cylindrical ice crystal in a certain pattern. What did this mean? Could it be that this could provide him with energy so that he could use the fireball technique continuously? Oh, my God. That primordial spirit figure was shocked. He was done for. Wasn't this a formation? He was not very good at formations when he was alive, and it was a long time ago. He couldn't remember it for a while. Until now, he finally saw clearly that Xiao Chen had set up a simple formation. Although he didn't know how to set up this formation, he had seen others set it up before. This was a quite vicious formation. It was a formation to refine the ghost talisman devil. This time, he was scared out of his wits. He carefully examined Xiao Chen again. Oh my God, this is not a martial cultivator or a devil cultivator at all. This is AF** King cultivator. How could there be a cultivator in this era? He took a closer look. F***CK, he's a cultivator at the Foundation establishment stage. If it was when he was alive, a small cultivator at the Foundation establishment stage would be in existence that could be pinched to death in minutes. But it was not possible now. Not to mention that he was sealed in the cylindrical ice crystal. Even if he came out, he would not be a match for him. Unless he used a special method to possess him, or ran away first and came back to settle the score after his cultivation was done. But the key problem was that this kid wanted to refine the ghost talisman devil. Once the cylindrical ice crystal shattered, it would be the time for him to be refined. Damn it, the primordial spirit figure finally figured it out. Previously, this kid was lying to him. This kid's aptitude was not trash at all. He had the aptitude to be a cultivator. However, he subconsciously thought that there was absolutely no cultivator in this era, and he didn't think in that direction at all. And the more heaven-defying a cultivator's aptitude was, the more they couldn't cultivate into a martial cultivator or a demonic cultivator, because those were two different paths. He checked Xiao Chen's aptitude and felt that he was trash. Then, he kept satisfying Xiao Chen's wishes. Now, it seemed that all his efforts had gone to this kid. He wanted the spiritual chi for cultivation, and he wanted these materials to refine himself into a ghost talisman devil. Thinking of this, the essence spirit figure felt that he absolutely could not sit still and wait for death. He hurriedly communicated with Xiao Chen's mind. In fact, Xiao Chen was also waiting to communicate. Feeling a strong mental fluctuation, Xiao Chen naturally stopped his work and began to communicate with this mental fluctuation. Kid, you're AF** King Cultivator, aren't you? This time, the figure didn't disguise himself with Xiao Chen at all. As soon as he saw Xiao Chen come in, he glared at him and shouted. Oh, what do you mean by a cultivator? Xiao Chen blinked his eyes innocently and looked as if he would beat him to death if he didn't accept it. You. The figure really couldn't do anything to Xiao Chen. This Dao Enlightenment Sand Valley was a territory that he had refined using all his Daoist techniques. However, he could only use his mind to control a small part of things. His body was still sealed in the cylindrical ice crystal, so he couldn't use his strength at all. What me? Xiao Chen said, didn't you put on quite a good act just now? Did you pretend to be some martial intent? Why can you suddenly speak? Aya, have you evolved into a spirit? The figure was a little angry. Are you trying to refine me into a ghost talisman devil? Yes. Xiao Chen said directly without hiding anything. You're too wicked. The figure looked at Xiao Chen's shameless look and was extremely angry. You used my spiritual chi and asked for my materials. Is this how you repay me? Hey. What you said is so strange. You tricked us to come here to work for you. You wanted to open your seal, and you even pretended to improve our martial skills. What do you say? Xiao Chen scratched his head and asked. This. The figure was a little stunned when he heard Xiao Chen's words. He always thought that it was Xiao Chen's fault, but he didn't think that it was all because of him. He snorted and said, What do you want? I don't want anything. Actually, I'm a very easy person to talk to. I already have a ghost talisman devil, so it doesn't matter if I have you or not. However, I can't get out now, so I'll reluctantly refine you. Xiao Chen spread out his hands with a helpless expression. You. How can you stop? The figure looked at Xiao Chen and asked angrily. I've already said that you can let us go. Can't you just let us go? Xiao Chen said. Well, if you open my seal and don't refine me into a ghost talisman devil, I can promise you that I'll let you go. The figure said. Oh, then I'd better refine you. Xiao Chen said, I spent so much effort to open your seal. Is there something wrong with me? I'll give you something good. The figure rolled his eyes and said, It's something good for cultivators. Oh. What is it? Xiao Chen was interested. Let me go first, and I'll tell you. The figure looked at Xiao Chen treacherously and smiled. Oh, then I'll refine you into a ghost talisman devil, and you'll tell me all your secrets. Xiao Chen said directly, Okay, don't bother me. I'm going to start. Hey, don't. The figure didn't expect that Xiao Chen wouldn't be tempted at all. He had no choice but to say, then what do you want me to do? Give me those good things and tell me how to get out of here. Xiao Chen did not waste any words. The reason why he had patiently talked so much with this primordial spirit was because Xiao Chen did not have absolute confidence that he could refine this primordial spirit. This was because even the Sky Elder had said that he did not have the confidence to deal with it. Therefore, Xiao Chen did not want to take the risk. If the refinement failed and this primordial spirit escaped, then he would be in trouble in the future. Humph, do you really think that I can't deal with you? I created this sand valley, and I can control everything here at any time. After listening to Xiao Chen's conditions, the figure directly threatened him angrily. I can decide whether you live or die. Do you believe me? Oh, okay, then let's see who can refine who first. Xiao Chen didn't care at all. If the spirit had a way, it would have already made a move. Why would it wait until now to talk terms with him? You. The spirit saw that Xiao Chen was simply stubborn. After hesitating for a moment, he had no choice but to compromise. Okay. I promise you, I'll tell you how to leave. The spirit thought that although Xiao Chen had left and given him the good things, it was still better than being refined into a ghost talisman devil. After all, he didn't know how good Xiao Chen's technique was, so he didn't dare to take the risk. Although Xiao Chen's strength was low, his formation and refining technique were not bad. What if he could refine it? Okay. Xiao Chen said, leave the good things here first. I'll come back later to get them. Don't let others see it. No problem, put it in the same place as before. The spirit said. Then how do we get out? Xiao Chen asked. Here, there is a hidden door. As long as you continue to walk forward, you can get out. As the primordial spirit spoke, it went to demonstrate to Xiao Chen. It was in a hidden corner, and it did not look like there was anything wrong with it. Xiao Chen even had to jump 3 feet high before he could jump up. That place was no different from the ordinary side walls of the Sand Valley, but it allowed people to enter. After Xiao Chen wrote it down, he nodded, stood up, and said to everyone, okay, I've cracked it. I know how to get out. Oh. How do we get out? Everyone asked quickly after listening. Can we get out without breaking this cylindrical ice crystal? Someone asked in disbelief. Everyone, follow me. Xiao Chen didn't care whether everyone could listen or not. He went directly to the place where the spirit had demonstrated before. Then, he jumped and stood on the side wall. He walked forward and said as he walked, from here, we can get out. As he spoke, Xiao Chen took a step forward and quickly ran out. He was a cultivator, so his speed was extremely fast. He felt that he was running on a slope, but he could not see his surroundings clearly. It was as if his surroundings were filled with quicksand, but he could still pass through it. After running for about 10 minutes, Xiao Chen came out of the desert, but when he looked down, there was nothing under his feet. I'm afraid this is also a formation, an irreversible formation. Nearby is the teleportation formation that Xiao Chen came from before. It seems that the spirit didn't lie. Xiao Chen could be sure that the spirit was afraid of him, so what it said was the truth. However, Xiao Chen didn't wait here for the others to come out. He didn't know if he would be targeted. After all, his performance inside was more dazzling. In the Sand Valley, everyone worked together, so they didn't have any other thoughts. If these people came out and asked Xiao Chen all sorts of questions, or even harbored bad intentions, it would be troublesome. Therefore, Xiao Chen quickly took out 10 spirit stones from his backpack and placed them on the teleportation formation. Then, he stood on the teleportation formation. The next moment, he was teleported back to the Sand Valley again. The remaining people in the Sand Valley saw that Xiao Chen didn't come back for a long time. It was obvious that he had really left. Some people imitated him and began to try. When one went in, the second one followed. Then, everyone left the Sand Valley one by one. We can really get out from here. How did that kid find out? The people who came out couldn't help but think of Xiao Chen. Hey! Where's the kid from before? Why isn't he here? I still want to ask him why his martial arts are so powerful. This was a martial cultivator at the 10th level of the martial master realm. He seems to have left, there's no one here. Another demonic cultivator at the 10th level of the martial master realm said. Chapter 638. Forget it, everyone disperse. The 10th layer martial master waved his hand and said. That's right, let's go our separate ways. The devil master of the 10th layer also said loudly. When the rest of the people who came out heard the words of the two of them, they didn't say much and dispersed one after another. Some of them had already been in the Sand Valley for more than a year. At this moment, they naturally had to quickly contact their families or sections. However, no one tried to activate their martial skills again. They all left with tacit understanding. Perhaps everyone knew that if they were to fight, it would turn into a chaotic battle. Perhaps no one would be able to benefit from it. As for the two 10th layer martial masters, they clearly understood this logic. Therefore, they called out to everyone and persuaded everyone to leave first. At this moment, Xiao Chen had already returned. He began to madly rush in the direction of the cylindrical ice crystal. Firstly, it was to escape from the people outside. Secondly, it was to retrieve the treasures. He believed that after these people left, the news that the Sand Valley was a lie would definitely spread. At that time, no one would come again. However, there were still some people left in the Sand Valley who had not succeeded in comprehending the Tao. Xiao Chen couldn't care less. Even if Xiao Chen told them that this place was fake, they might not believe him. They would definitely think that Xiao Chen was selfish. He had succeeded in comprehending the Tao, but he didn't want others to succeed as well. Therefore, rather than causing trouble, it was better to let nature take its course. However, it was a pity for his companions from before. After returning to the cylindrical ice crystal, Xiao Chen discovered that the Sand Valley Plaza, which was originally the pinnacle of life, had become empty and very quiet. At this moment, Xiao Chen didn't care about anything. He directly asked, "Have the treasures been buried?" "Yes, they're all buried." The primordial spirit's voice sounded. "It seems that you're still keeping your word. Then I won't continue refining you. Although, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure that I can successfully refine you, I'm almost 90% sure." Xiao Chen said, "Don't use some trash to fool me." "I know." When the primordial spirit heard Xiao Chen's words, he no longer had any doubts. Otherwise, after he had compromised, he would have calmed down and thought about it. Why did Xiao Chen compromise? Obviously, he could refine him into a ghost talisman devil. At that time, perhaps his things would belong to Xiao Chen, and there would be no secrets at all. Wouldn't that be better than now? Moreover, Xiao Chen had the help of the ghost talisman devil. But now that Xiao Chen said this, he understood that Xiao Chen was not 100% sure. This was reasonable, but even if it was only 90%, he did not dare to provoke Xiao Chen. He was afraid that Xiao Chen would directly fight him to the death. Xiao Chen came to the place where he had dug up the treasure and dug out another chest. Opening it, he saw 4 pieces of spirit jades neatly stacked inside. Adding the 2 pieces from before, there were 6 pieces in total. This made Xiao Chen very happy. This was a good thing, and Xiao Chen needed it. He did not expect the primordial spirit to really not lie to him. "How is it?" "Not bad, right?" the primordial spirit said proudly. "So little." Xiao Chen appeared disappointed, but he was overjoyed in his heart. "Little? Bullshit, this is my savings for many years." Some people use spirit jades as spirit stones to activate the teleportation formation, but this kind of people are not common. "I only collected these, and I gave them all to you. I have no use for it." The primordial spirit said angrily, "I didn't know that you only had 90% confidence in refining me, so I can't lie to you." "Then, you didn't have any stock before?" Xiao Chen could not help but ask. "The previous stock is arranged in this Sand Valley, Where is it? The primordial spirit said helplessly, I didn't expect that because of you, all my previous efforts would be wasted. I guess no one will come here in the future. That's not my problem, you continue to stay here and play by yourself, I'm leaving, bye-bye. Xiaochen put away the spirit jades, then jumped and ran outside. Xiaochen did not think that there would be anyone waiting outside, because no one knew that he would return, so there was no point in waiting outside. Sure enough, as Xiaochen guessed, when he went out, there was no one outside. Xiaochen breathed a sigh of relief and walked forward. He did not stay in the vicinity, but returned to the ruins of the Paoli clan's cultivation city. Although the energy stones were in his hands, the purpose of Xiaochen's trip was to find the extraterrestrial ink meteorite, not only to find it for Xia Zhili, but also for Xiaochen himself. This heavenly treasure can help a martial master level expert to break through to the general level, then can I also use it to break through to the gold core stage? Xiaochen already knew that after the foundation establishment stage was the gold core stage, which was equivalent to the general level of martial cultivators and devil cultivators. Of course, it was only on paper, but in a real fight, a general of the same level was absolutely not a match for a cultivator. Looking at the 4 words Bubbly Clan written on the castle, Xiaochen hesitated as to whether or not he should enter. After all, the map in his hands stopped here. There was no detailed map inside. If he wanted to enter, he would have to rely on himself. Friend, are you planning to go to the ruins of the Paoli clan? At this time, a voice sounded. From afar, Xiaochen saw a person rushing over. The reason why it was said to be rushing was because this person was driving a convertible. Xiaochen was a little puzzled. How did this person drive in? Is there another way to enter the Hakonamida desert? He paid a high price to come in, but this person did not let him drive. Could it be that this person spent more money? Yes, you are. Xiaochen was already standing next to the ruins. If he said no, he would be lying, so he might as well admit it. I'm also here to explore, the person said. Let me introduce myself, I'm Tagan Shanxiong. Oh. Hello. Xiaochen nodded, waiting for him to continue. You're here for the spirit stones? Tagan Shanxiong asked, his eyes turning. Yes. Xiaochen nodded again. Did you get it? Tagan Shanxiong asked. Not yet. Xiaochen shook his head. Then we can go together, the person said. You're a martial master, right? Entering the ruins requires the cooperation of a few people, you can't go in alone, but if you're willing, we can work together. Oh. What's in it for me? Xiaochen felt that this person was too enthusiastic, but thinking of Mao Guang before, he didn't suspect much. He just asked, if we find the spirit stones in the ruins, how about we give them to you first? The person said, of course, but the other things will belong to us. Oh, do you know that there must be spirit stones in there? Xiaochen didn't argue with him. His purpose here was the outer sky ink meteorite, but he couldn't tell anyone. That's not necessarily true, but if there isn't, as a reward, each of us will give you some spirit stones and help you get 10. How about that? The person looked very generous. Forgive me for being blunt, but what are you looking for in the ruins? Xiaochen asked without batting an eyelid. Oh, we're here to verify something, not to find anything, the person said with a smile. The introduction just now may not have been comprehensive, but let me say it again. I'm from the Wulian archaeology team, you can call me Captain Tagan. We're a group of martial masters with the same hobby of archaeology. We formed an archaeology team and traveled through all kinds of mountain ruins. Wulian archaeology team? Xiaochen was a little confused after hearing this. There was such an organization? These people were all martial masters, but they still went to archaeology. It was the first time he heard of this. Subconsciously, Xiaochen felt that this person wasn't very reliable, but since this person said so, he didn't ask anymore. He just said, okay, if that's the case, then it's fine for me to join. But what if we find other valuable things? According to the rules, of course we'll split it equally. Tagan Shanxiong smiled and said, other than giving you spirit stones first, we'll split the other things equally. If it's more valuable than spirit stones, then we can give you some. That's fair. Xiao Chen nodded. If that's the case, when do we act? Of course, even if our team is temporary, it's very fair, Tagan Shanxiong said. Tagan Shanxiong said, wait a minute, there are still 4 people. When they arrive, the 6 of us will move together. Okay, do you have a map of the ruins? The reason why Xiao Chen agreed to form a team with them was because he didn't have a map of the ruins. If he went in, it was very likely that he would get lost. With these people, it would be better. Yes, but it's only a rough map. It's not very complete. Tagan Shanxiong said, since my teammates haven't come, you can take a look. As he said this, Tagan Shanxiong took out a map and handed it to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen took it and looked at it. However, the map was really simple. It only had the approximate route and position of the Bubbly clan's cultivation city. It didn't have the exact location. However, Xiao Chen quickly memorized it. Maybe it would be of great use. Thank you, this map is very rough. I don't understand it. Xiao Chen returned the map to Tagan Shanxiong and said with a smile. Yes, this map is just a reference. We need to use past experience to accurately judge some things. Tagan Shanxiong smiled and said, when the time comes, you will know how wise your choice was. Otherwise, if you go in yourself, you might not be able to find anything. After all, this ruins has been visited many times. It's hard to say what good things are left. Yes, I think so too. Xiao Chen nodded. Not long after, 2 more cars arrived and 4 people got out. Tagan Shanxiong stepped forward and greeted them one by one. Then he said, this is a trial challenger that wants to form a team with us. He wants to go to the ruins to look for spirit stones. Friend, introduce yourself. Chapter 639. I am Xiao Chen, a martial master-level demonic cultivator. I am here on a spirit stone mission. I am very happy to be able to travel with you. I hope you can take care of me. Xiao Chen cupped his fists and said. Well said, well said. The others smiled and said, the 4 of us are Captain Tagan's team members. My name is Zhang Zhongyuan, nicknamed Baldy. Friends can call me Brother Baldy. A bald team member said. My name is Jiang Yushui, nicknamed Skinny Jiang. Another team member with a slender body said. Just call me Xiao Cheng. This was a man with a gloomy face. He did not look like someone easy to get along with. My name is Xueqian. This was a woman wearing a veil. Xiao Chen could not see her real face, but she gave him a familiar feeling, as if he had seen her somewhere before. Xiao Chen nodded and greeted them one by one. Then he said, excuse me, do you often explore together? No, we are all archaeology enthusiasts. When there is a mission, we will gather together. Normally, we don't get together. We meet about once a year. Baldy waved his hand and said, we all have our own specialties. Yes, I am in charge of finding the ruins and estimating the value of the ruins. Then, we will contact each other on the internet and gather together. The one called Tagan Shanxiong said, we all come from different sects or families. We will not deliberately ask each other's background. For this kind of exploration, the more people there are, the more fun it will be. This time, I am inviting you. If you think it is good, you can join us next time. We can form a team to explore other ruins. So that's how it is. Xiao Chen nodded. No wonder the 4 of them didn't come together with Tagan and Shanxiong. It turned out that they came from different places. Yes, how about it? Are you interested? Tagan Shanxiong smiled. I will take a look first. Xiao Chen did not reply immediately. For the time being, Xiao Chen did not know whether this Tagan Shanxiong was a friend or a foe, whether he had good or bad intentions. At the very least, Xiao Chen could not make out any intentions from this person's words. At most, these people wanted to go to the ruins to find something, but they didn't plan to share it with him. They just wanted to give him spirit stones. But this was understandable. No one would be so generous to a stranger. Good, since everyone is here, let's go. Tagan Shanxiong waved his hand and led Xiao Chen and the others into the ruins of the Paoli clan. Inside the ruins, what Xiao Chen saw was even more dilapidated than he had imagined. There were broken walls and ruins everywhere, and the ground was covered in yellow sand. However, from the vaguely majestic buildings, he could tell that this place must have been prosperous once. He didn't know why the Bubbly clan gave up on this place in the end. Was there an accident or something? If it wasn't for an accident, they wouldn't have left important things here when they moved. Although spirit stones were not as valuable as spirit jades, they were still very precious things. Leaving them here for people to search for, it could be seen that the Paoli clan had left in a hurry. Don't touch the things on the ground. At this time, Tagan Shanxiong reminded Xiao Chen, don't look at the ground. Sometimes you can see spirit stones, but that's an illusion created by the desert hermit scorpions. Those things are highly toxic, and whoever touches them will die. Brother Xiao Chang, you must be careful. I understand. Xiao Chen smiled gratefully. Although he knew, this person's warning was still very kind. At this point, Xiao Chen let down his guard a little. However, he didn't completely let it go. The few of them quickly moved forward. Tagan Shanxiong led the way, as if he was very familiar with the terrain. He didn't stop at all, nor did he look at the map. This made Xiao Chen a little suspicious. At this thought, Xiao Chen couldn't help but ask, Captain Tagan, with all due respect, have you been here before? Tagan Shanxiong was slightly stunned, but he immediately understood what Xiao Chen meant. He paused and said, of course I've been here before. As the initiator of the mission, I have to investigate first. This is a necessary condition. Brother Xiao Chang, are you suspecting that I have some ulterior motives? No, I'm just a little curious. Xiao Chen laughed and said, I'm alone in an unfamiliar place, so I naturally have to be careful. I hope Captain Tagan won't take offense. Of course not. Tagan Shanxiong shook his head. Instead, he praised Xiao Chen, you're right. When you're out alone, there's nothing wrong with being more cautious. When adventuring in a remnant, the most important thing is to be cautious. You can't be reckless. Otherwise, you might lose your life if you're not careful. These words made Xiao Chen feel that Tagan Shanxiong was open and aboveboard. However, Xiao Chen was also puzzled. Why was this group of strangers so good to him? Did they just want him to join their exploration team? But why did they trust a person they met so much? Were they not suspicious of his origins? They didn't even ask a single question. Or was it really as Tagan Shanxiong said, that they didn't even ask about each other's origins? Fortunately, Tagan Shanxiong did not have time to talk to Xiao Chen. After praising him, he continued to hurry forward. Xiao Chen also saw that other than himself, the others seemed to trust Tagan Shanxiong very much. They did not feel that there was anything wrong with rushing. Of course, Xiao Chen had a good impression of Tagan Shanxiong, but it did not mean that he was not on guard at all. However, Xiao Chen did not think that Tagan Shanxiong would covet anything from him. Since he was willing to do the mission for spirit stones, he obviously did not have any good cultivation resources. At the very least, these people would not join forces to rob him. After passing through these ruins, Xiao Chen found that the scene in front of him suddenly changed. It was no longer an endless desert, but some desert plants appeared. Looking ahead, there was even a dense forest. This made Xiao Chen a little surprised. Could there be a dense forest in the desert? Soon, under Tagan Shanxiong's lead, everyone entered the dense forest, but his speed had obviously slowed down. Not only that, after walking for a while, Tagan Shanxiong took out his compass and compared it with the map. His behavior made Xiao Chen breathe a sigh of relief. The previous road was easier to walk, so it was normal to walk fast. Looking at Tagan Shanxiong's behavior in the dense forest, it was obvious that this was his first time here, so he should not have any special intentions. After walking for a few more hours, Tagan Shanxiong stopped and said, "The place we're at now is a secret treasure trove of the Paoli clan. Not many people know about this place. Moreover, the treasures are scattered, so not all of them have been taken away." When Xiao Chen saw Tagan Shanxiong looking at him, he nodded and said, "Do you need me to do anything?" "Yes, Xiao Chang, I see that you are a demonic cultivator. This time, we need your help to break the formation of the treasure house," Tagan Shanxiong said. "Oh? What do you mean?" Xiao Chen was a little inexplicable. Why did they need him again? Wasn't he just here to be bystanders? Tagan Shanxiong explained to Xiao Chen, "Through my observation along the way, I know that you are a reliable and trustworthy person, so I will tell you the truth. The reason why I want to rope you in is because you are a demonic cultivator." "Oh?" Xiao Chen said curiously, "You knew that I was a demonic cultivator?" When he heard Xiao Chen's question, Tagan Shanxiong nodded and said, "Yes, I sense the aura of a demonic cultivator on you, and this mission requires the help of a demonic cultivator. The reason I didn't say it clearly before was because we didn't have any trust between us. But after arriving here, through my observation, I noticed that you aren't a rash person, and you are very kind as well. You should be a good partner." This person's words were very reasonable, but Xiao Chen's heart trembled. It would be strange if this person could see that I'm a demonic cultivator. "I'm not a demonic cultivator at all, I'm a true cultivator." It was possible for this person to be able to discern whether someone was a martial cultivator or a demonic cultivator, but how great was this person's ability to discern that Xiao Chen was a demonic cultivator? He hadn't revealed any strength at all, and he had only introduced himself as a demonic cultivator, yet this person had actually taken advantage of him? But don't forget, this person had first looked for him to cooperate, and only then did he know that he was a demonic cultivator. Moreover, if Xiao Chen didn't appear here, where would he go to find a demonic cultivator? Wouldn't the five of them come? Therefore, what he said was reasonable, but in reality, it didn't make any sense. However, Xiao Chen pretended not to hear it, and instead showed the joy of being valued. He said happily, "Is that so? You still need my help? Along the way, I seem to have been leeching experience, and now there's finally a place for me to be of use. Captain Tagan, just tell me." Originally, we only planned to look for some treasures in the periphery, but the array formation in the periphery is very simple, and I'm afraid that others have already broken it. However, since Brother Xiao Chang is a demonic cultivator, we can break some of the more profound array formations now, but there might be some dangers that could lead to injuries. I wonder if Brother Xiao Chang dares to attack together? Tagan Shanxiong's words seemed to be an explanation and supplement to the previous sentence. Xiao Chen's heart trembled, but on the surface, he smiled and said, "Of course, since I'm here, I naturally have to get some good things. If it's just a few spirit stones, I'd be letting myself down. By the way, I wonder if I have a share?" Although Xiao Chen had begun to suspect Tagan Shanxiong, since there were benefits, he wouldn't miss it. Wealth comes from danger. He felt that these people shouldn't be lying to him. There were indeed treasures here, and they really needed his help to open some array formation. However, the dangers brought about by the array formation might have been downplayed by Tagan Shanxiong. Xiao Chen believed that wealth and danger coexisted, and there was no such thing as reaping without sowing. Chapter 640. Otherwise, if these people wanted to trick him, they could have done it elsewhere. There was no need for them to come here. Very good, young hero Xiao is really young and promising. Your heroic spirit reaches the clouds. Tagan Shanxiong laughed and said, "In that case, I won't hide it from you. In a while, we will open the formation. The five of us will attack it, but we need a demonic cultivator to help us resist the formation's backlash." "Oh? The formation's backlash?" Xiao Chen frowned. "Do I have to resist it?" "Yes, the formation here is very strange. If there are devil cultivators here, they will simply choose the devil cultivators to suffer from the backlash. As for us, we don't need to be tired of dealing with the backlash of the formation. But you will have to work hard alone. Tagan Shanxiong said, "This formation is very well hidden. No one should have discovered it before, so if we break it, we should be the first to enter. Besides spirit stones, I can give you more of the good stuff inside." "Then will I be in danger?" Xiao Chen asked. "At this point, there definitely won't be any big danger, but there will be small dangers." Tagan Shanxiong said, "If I want to lie to you, I can completely deceive you and let you suffer the formation's backlash. But I'm telling you in advance. You can also see my sincerity. Whether you want to go or not, it's up to you." The more he acted like this, the more a normal person would believe him. However, because Xiao Chen had his suspicions before, he didn't completely believe his words. In Xiao Chen's opinion, perhaps half of what this person said was true, but it wasn't completely true. If he completely believed it, then he would really be a fool. "Then why didn't you find a demonic cultivator to help before? Why did you wait until now?" Xiao Chen asked with some doubt. Since this formation needed the help of a demonic cultivator, then what did they do before? If they couldn't find a demonic cultivator, Xiao Chen would not believe it. If they could form a team with a random person at the entrance of a cultivation ruin, then how could they not find a reliable candidate before? Was that even possible? Tagan Shanxiong smiled bitterly and said, We didn't even think about breaking that formation. We just wanted to find some formations that had been broken before and see if there were any good things inside. We didn't even consider these unknown formations. After all, even if the formation is broken, there might still be danger in the treasury, because danger and benefits coexist. Everyone understands this logic. So you changed your mind when you saw me? Xiao Chen naturally didn't believe this excuse. Of course not. Previously, I met an old acquaintance in the desert. He told me some news. Tagan Shanxiong said, "This old friend of mine is a local tyrant in this area. He has some information that others don't know about. Because he is familiar with me, he told me this information." "Oh? What news?" After Xiao Chen heard that, he nodded without batting an eyelid. It sounded like breaking the current formation was a last-minute decision. "This friend of mine is called Wang Kaichao. He has been doing well in the Hakanamada Desert. He is an old adventurer here. Of course, he rarely takes risks now. After he has a family, he mainly makes a living by inquiring about and selling information, as well as helping people solve problems. He basically doesn't come to the desert anymore. This time, I came early, so I went to Brother Wang's place to sit for a while. That's when I heard this news. In the treasury behind this formation, there is an extraterrestrial ink meteorite. I wonder if young hero Xiao knows about this thing." "What? Extraterrestrial ink meteorite?" Xiao Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect Tagan Shanxiong's real goal to be this extraterrestrial ink meteorite. It seemed that the news that Xia Zhili had received was not fake. Now, others had also received this news. Yes, young hero Zhao's reaction means that you must know about this thing. If it was an ordinary treasure, we might have given up, but this thing is too precious. Tagan Shanxiong said, "I also told this news to my companions at the last minute. They are also very supportive of finding a devil cultivator to form a team and break the formation. So that's how it is. No wonder, with such a precious treasure, anyone would change their mind at the last minute." Xiao Chen suddenly understood and then said, "In that case, there is no problem. I am also very interested in this treasure, but if we find it, will I have a share?" "Of course." Hearing Xiao Chen's question, Tagan Shanxiong quickly nodded and said, "Everyone who sees it has a share. In addition to the spirit stones that we promised you, we can divide this extraterrestrial ink meteorite equally. However, if there are other things, we will have to subtract the value of the spirit stones and then divide it with you." All right. This distribution was very fair, so Xiao Chen naturally did not disagree. If he were to look for it himself, he might not even be able to find the extraterrestrial ink meteorite. He would get lost the moment he entered. "All right, now I will start breaking the formation," Tagan Shanxiong said. "All right, what should I do?" Xiao Chen asked. There is an eye of the formation here. When we attack the formation will release a backlash force. At this time, young hero Xiao only needs to sit cross-legged on the eye of the formation and use all your strength to resist the backlash attack of the formation, Tagan Shanxiong explained. That's good. Sit on the eye of the formation? Xiao Chen felt that it was a little strange, but he still nodded. He knew nothing about what these people wanted to do. For the sake of the extraterrestrial ink meteorite, he could only take a risk. In any case, it did not matter if he did not understand the formation. There was still the Elder Heaven Ancestor who did. If there were any problems, the Elder Heaven Ancestor would also remind him, so that he would not be at a loss. Baldy, you stand here. Xueqian, you stand here. Tagan Shanxiong made arrangements and gestured for his 4 teammates to stand in suitable positions. Finally, he said to Xiao Chen, young hero Xiao, you stand here. That is the eye of the formation. Xiao Chen nodded and walked over. However, when he passed by Xueqian, he heard her whisper, be careful. Huh? Xiao Chen found it a little strange. Why did Xueqian remind him to be careful? What did she mean? Along the way, he could tell that Xueqian was a very cold woman. She almost never spoke, nor did she say anything. She just walked with everyone. Now that she had suddenly reminded him to be careful, Xiao Chen found it indescribably strange. If he had been a teammate that she had known in the past, there would have been no harm in reminding him. However, Xiao Chen did not know her, yet she had said such a thing. Furthermore, even if they were teammates, Xueqian still behaved very coldly and did not speak much along the way. However, although Xiao Chen was puzzled, he still walked to the eye of the formation without batting an eyelid. He was secretly vigilant. Wait a moment. When I say start, everyone will go all out and use your strongest skills to attack in front of you. Don't hold back. Go all out. Do you understand? Tagan Shanxiong said loudly. Understood. Everyone nodded. All right, get ready, start. After saying that, Tagan Shanxiong took the lead. A series of banging sounds could be heard. Everyone took out their ultimate skills and attacked the formation in front of them. Although they seemed to be hitting the air, there was actually an invisible barrier in front of them. This was the formation. Xiao Chen had experience in this aspect. Back in the mountains behind the Immortal Resort, he, Clay Den, and the others had used a similar method to break the formation of an ancient ruin. However, just as Xiao Chen wanted to ask the Elder Heaven Ancestor if there was any other way to break the formation, he felt a powerful force similar to an electric current surging toward him. Xiao Chen's body quivered and he subconsciously began to circulate the mantra to defend himself. However, as everyone attacked, the force seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. It continuously attacked Xiao Chen, causing him to be overwhelmed. At this moment, Xiao Chen was sweating profusely. He subconsciously wanted to leave the eye of the formation because the force was too strong. Xiao Chen knew that if he did not leave, it was very likely that he would suffer internal injuries. As for killing him, that was also a possibility. However, the next moment, Xiao Chen knew that leaving the eye of the formation was an extravagant hope. Because under the restraint of this force, Xiao Chen's body seemed to have been electrocuted. He could not even move. There was indeed a problem. Xiao Chen was secretly shocked. This Tagan Shanxiong did not have any good intentions. He seemed to be very frank and straightforward, but anyone who resisted the backlash of the eye of the formation would be courting death. And Xiao Chen finally understood what Xueqian meant by, be careful. He really had to be careful. However, why did Xueqian remind him? Elder Heaven Ancestor, what should I do? I think I'm going to die. Xiao Chen turned pale with fright. Why do I have such a dumb disciple like you? Elder Heaven Ancestor was a little speechless. What's the point of your heaven's stolen fortune battle art? You can't resist it, but you can still heal yourself. With the intensity of the attack, it's enough for you to endure it and continuously heal yourself. That works? Xiao Chen was stunned. If I can't die? Elder Heaven Ancestor snorted. Xiao Chen came to a realization. No wonder Elder Sky did not warn him earlier. It turned out that Elder Sky had the confidence to break it. Xiao Chen hurriedly circulated his mental cultivation method and gave up on resisting. Instead, he focused on treating his injuries. Anyway, he wouldn't die from his injuries for a while. He could endure it here and there, so he could be busy. Thus, Xiao Chen continued to suffer the backlash, get injured, heal, suffer the backlash again, get injured again, heal again, and so on. Xiao Chen struggled with great difficulty as he suffered the backlash and injuries again and again. At the beginning, Xiao Chen was a little overwhelmed, but very quickly, Xiao Chen liked this feeling. This was because Xiao Chen discovered that his strength was growing bit by bit as he continuously healed himself. Although it was very slow, he could still sense it. The foundation establishment stage was different from the qi refinement stage. Every little bit of improvement was very difficult. Back in the Tao Enlightenment Sand Valley, the pure heaven and earth spiritual qi only allowed him to improve a little. Even now, he still hadn't reached the peak of the first level of the foundation establishment stage. Chapter 641. He hadn't expected that the power from the backlash could help Xiao Chen break through. Now, Xiao Chen hoped that these people would attack slower so that the array formation wouldn't be broken so easily. Time passed slowly as Xiao Chen continued to repair and improve. On the other side, Tagan Shanxiong realized that Xiao Chen seemed to be fine. He was secretly surprised. This Xiao Chen looked like a martial master level 1 demonic cultivator previously. Why was it that the abilities he displayed now were completely different? Although he couldn't sense Xiao Chen's specific strength because Xiao Chen hadn't made a move yet, whether it was the aura Xiao Chen was displaying or the time he had spent resisting the backlash, it proved that this guy was definitely a third-level martial master demonic cultivator. This discovery made Tagan Shanxiong's heart tremble. He was only a 5th-level martial master. He had thought that Xiao Chen wouldn't be able to survive this round of backlash. Once the array formation was opened, there would be nothing left for Xiao Chen. But now, it seemed that this guy was still very tenacious. This was because Tagan Shanxiong knew that there wouldn't be many extraterrestrial ink meteorites in the ruins. He was afraid that there would only be 2 or 3 pieces. They didn't even have enough for their own people, so why should they share it with Xiao Chen? Previously, he had tricked Xiao Chen into coming here. In this world, the easiest lies to deceive people were half-truths and half-lies. That was how he had done it. He had weaved a very convincing lie, but he had underestimated Xiao Chen's strength. However, at this moment, he couldn't care less about Xiao Chen. He could only continue to attack the array gloomily. Perhaps he would find another opportunity later. If it really didn't work, he would hint to his teammates to join forces and kill Xiao Chen. In any case, he couldn't let him get the extraterrestrial ink meteorites. It would be fine if there were too many of them, but if there were too few, there definitely wouldn't be enough to share. He was absolutely unwilling to watch Xiao Chen take it away. Xiao Chen, on the other hand, didn't care. He kept healing and improving. He already couldn't remember how much time had passed. Under the powerful force, there was almost no place on his body that wasn't injured. Often, when one place was healed, another place would be seriously injured. He could only continue to be a firefighter and heal himself. However, he didn't find it troublesome at all. Every time he recovered, his strength would increase. Suddenly, he felt a hissing sound coming from within his body, and a moment later, this sound caused all the meridians in his body to tremble slightly. Yuan Qi began to circulate wildly in his body, and like a tidal wave, it gathered in his dantian. A hint of surprise flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. This wasn't the first time he had such a feeling. He knew that he was about to break through again. Sure enough, the next moment, after Xiao Chen healed the injuries on his whole body shook, and he also broke through. He became a cultivator at the peak of the first level of the foundation establishment stage, and he broke through without using any cultivation resources. This was a very rare situation. From the looks of it, the power of the backlash definitely contained something similar to spiritual energy. However, it was offensive in nature. Under the mental cultivation method's mnemonic chant, as his injuries healed, it fused with the primordial qi in his body, allowing him to break through. Xiao Chen's breakthrough did not attract too much attention. This was because he was a cultivator. His breakthrough was different from that of a martial cultivator or a demonic cultivator. Moreover, he was circulating the energy of the backlash, so no one noticed anything at all. Tagan, Shanxiong, and the others were constantly attacking the array, and they were also paying attention to Xiao Chen's matter. Finally, with everyone's attacks, the array let out a loud bang, and on Xiao Chen's side, he also welcomed the most powerful attack since the beginning. It was too awesome. Xiao Chen felt that with this attack, he had suddenly consolidated his strength at the peak of the first level of the foundation establishment stage. This made his whole body tremble, and he felt a little regretful. How could he break the array so quickly? If he continued to break it endlessly, would he eventually be pushed to the peak of the foundation establishment stage? Of course, it was just a thought, and it shouldn't be possible. Xiao Chen pretended that he didn't know anything, stood up, wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, and said, "This backlash is 2F** king strong, I almost died, especially the last attack. Fortunately, everyone was strong, or else I really wouldn't have been able to hold on. This is enough to prove that young hero Zhao's strength is superb, congratulations." Although Tagan and Shanxiong looked very happy, they were very regretful in their hearts. If they had known, they would have broken it a little longer. This guy actually seemed to be fine, what should they do? Yeah, I thought I couldn't hold on any longer. Captain Tagan, are you kidding me? Why do I feel that the backlash is so strong? Xiao Chen nodded and said. How can that be? I haven't experienced any backlash, but it is true that the backlash is very strong, but aren't you also fine? Tagan Shanxiong said. That's true, then let's quickly go in. Xiao Chen said. Tagan Shanxiong seemed a little impatient, but in his heart, he was thinking about how to get rid of Xiao Chen. Xiao Cheng, you stay at the entrance. After Tagan Shanxiong finished speaking, he took the lead and stepped into the array. Xiao Chen followed closely behind, and the other 3 teammates also followed. They didn't expect that after stepping into the array, they would suddenly see a completely different world in front of them. The dense forest before had turned into a dark corridor. After entering the array, they needed one person to stay outside. If there was a problem, they wouldn't be completely annihilated. Moreover, if someone came from outside, they could also notify them. This is the Paoli clan's secret treasure house. Originally, the Paoli clan probably left in a hurry and didn't take some of the treasures here with them. That's why it's our turn. Tagan Shanxiong explained to everyone as they walked, but we can't let our guard down now that we're in. This place could be filled with danger at any time. As soon as he finished speaking, he stopped in his tracks. What's wrong, Captain Tagan? Xiao Chen was also secretly on guard, and asked in a calm and puzzled manner. I feel that there is some danger ahead. Tagan Shanxiong said, then took out something that looked like a small ball from his backpack and threw it forward. Sure enough, when the ball rolled over, a large rock fell from the sky without any warning and smashed into the road ahead. Everyone was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. If not for Tagan Shanxiong's warning, it was likely that at least 2 people would have been hit, and that would be Tagan Shanxiong and Xiao Chen, who were walking at the front. Xiao Chen was also shocked. That was close, Captain Tagan. How did you find out? Speaking from experience. Tagan Shanxiong waved his hand and said with a solemn expression, look at the color of the ground in front. It's a little different. I'm afraid that not only can this rock fall, it can also rise. After saying that, Tagan Shanxiong walked forward. After taking 2 steps, the rock rose again without any warning and disappeared. Oh. Will it fall again? Xiao Chen asked. Probably not. Tagan Shanxiong said, it should only fall once in a period of time. Everyone just hurry up and pass through. No one dared to be negligent and quickly followed behind Tagan Shanxiong. Along the way, they encountered many similar traps, but they were easily dispelled by Tagan Shanxiong. It seemed that he was indeed adept at exploring ruins. Although this person was using Xiaochen as cannon fodder, Xiaochen had to admit that if he had not followed Tagan Shanxiong, he would not have been able to enter even if he had broken the array formation. Phew. Tagan Shanxiong led everyone to the end of the corridor and finally arrived in front of a door. He let out a long sigh and said, "Okay, there's nothing else. We have arrived at our destination." Hearing this, everyone, including Xiao Chen, relaxed. Although it was not difficult along the way and Tagan Shanxiong had led the team to resolve the traps, if Tagan Shanxiong had overlooked something, wouldn't everyone have suffered? Now that they had arrived safely, they were naturally very happy. However, Xueqian said, "Captain Tagan, why don't you open the door?" This was Xueqian's third sentence along the way. The first sentence was a self-introduction, the second to remind Xiaochen to be careful, and this was the third sentence. Xueqian's sudden words made Xiaochen's eyelids twitch again. Xueqian did not seem to want him to die. She had warned him once before, so why did she say it again? This door is the same as before. It can only be opened by a demonic cultivator. Let's all step back and give young hero Xiao a chance to perform. Tagan Shanxiong said. F***ck your chance to perform. Xiaochen cursed in his heart. It was probably a chance to die, right? Xiaochen did not believe that there was a need for demonic cultivators here. Normally, Xiaochen should have been dead when the formation was being broken. How could he have survived until now to open the door? At that time, Tagan Shanxiong obviously wanted to use him as cannon fodder. If he had died at that time, who could Tagan Shanxiong find now? "Ah, do you need me again?" Xiaochen still had to rely on Tagan Shanxiong, so it was not good to fall out with him for the time being. Who knew if there would be traps inside after the door was opened, so Xiaochen could only pretend that he did not know and ask. Xueqian glanced at Xiaochen but did not speak. Tagan Shanxiong said, "It's very simple. Just use your full strength to break open the door. Oh, then you guys can dodge. I'm going to use a big move. Just now, I was resisting the formation's backlash, so I don't have much strength now. I have to use a big move in one go." Xiaochen said. "Okay, everyone, step back." Tagan Shanxiong sneered in his heart. "We won't go forward even if you ask us to. Whoever rushes in first will die." Originally, he thought that you would die while breaking the formation. At this time, he planned to sacrifice one of his teammates. However, since Xiaochen was still alive, it would naturally be Xiaochen. The teammate he was referring to was Xueqian. Although Xueqian had teamed up with them a few times, she was cold and arrogant. She rarely spoke, so her relationship with Tagan Shanxiong and the others was not very good. Usually, in the group, she rarely chatted. Usually, when there was nothing to do, she would just lurk. Most importantly, he saw Xueqian's voluptuous figure. Although he did not know her appearance, he hinted several times that he wanted her to be his woman. However, Xueqian did not agree. In his anger, Tagan Shanxiong treated Xueqian as cannon fodder. Chapter 642. Anyway, there weren't enough extraterrestrial ink meteorites to be distributed. Killing one would reduce the disputes. And Xiaoma, it's time to perform. Xiaochen entered the divine sense space and said to Xiaoma. "Okay, master, what do you want me to do?" And Xiaoma was eager to try. "In a while, I will pretend to activate a big move. Then, you will go out and help me break the door open. Then, go in and see if there is any problem." Xiaochen ordered him. "Oh, no problem." And Xiaoma was a demon. As long as it wasn't some kind of spell, the mechanisms that fell from the big stones were useless to him. They couldn't cause any damage at all. Xiaochen danced there and finally activated a big move. In fact, there was only momentum and no attack. And Xiaoma took advantage of the momentum and slammed into the door at the end of the corridor. Boom! with a loud noise, and Xiaoma directly smashed the door open and rushed in. Then, he heard a series of caw-caw sounds coming from inside the house. A few large stones also fell at the door. Everyone only saw Xiao Chen activate an unknown martial arts skill. Then, a black shadow flew out from Xiao Chen's palms. They thought it was demonic energy, but no one knew that it was a demon. Of course, even if they saw it clearly, they wouldn't know what a demon was. It was difficult to understand if one wasn't a cultivator. Xiao Chen sneered in his heart. As expected, there was danger. If he wasn't a cultivator, if he really activated a martial arts skill with the ability of a martial artist, it would be impossible for him to attack from such a long distance. He would probably have to be in front of him. In that case, he would probably be in danger now. However, at this moment, Xiao Chen also pretended that he didn't see the problem. It wasn't good for him to fall out with Tagan Shanxiong. He just kept in Xiaoma and said, "Okay, I've opened the door. What should I do next?" Young hero Xiao is indeed powerful. This martial arts skill is really shocking. It can be activated from such a long distance, and the attack power is so high. This is the first time I've heard of it. Tagan Shanxiong's expression was a little unnatural. He didn't expect that Xiao Chen wouldn't be killed. "I'm alright." Xiao Chen chuckled, "I still have some confidence in my own martial skills. Now that I can contribute some strength to our team, I am also very happy. Otherwise, if we get a share of the Outer Star Inc. meteorites for nothing, would be too embarrassed to take it. Originally, I didn't want to take it. I just wanted some spirit stones. After all, I only contributed a little when I broke the formation. Afterwards, I followed Captain Tagan to gain experience points. But now, since this door was opened by me, it seems that my contribution is quite big. When the time comes, I can take it with a clear conscience." F***CK. Tagan Shanxiong cursed in his heart. So this was what this guy was thinking? If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have let him break the door. He could have used other methods to open the door. He had wanted to trick him to death, but since he was too embarrassed to use the Outer Star Inc. meteor, why would he want to trick him to death? It was really a case of going for wool and coming home shorn. Now, Xiao Chen was not tricked to death. Instead, he asked for his reward with a peace of mind. However, on the surface, it was not good for him to say anything. He could only say, "That's what I should do." Now, he only hoped that there would be 6 Outer Star Inc. meteors. Everyone would get 1 each. That would be the best. If there were less, then he could only join forces with his teammates to kill Xiao Chen. In fact, this was also the move that Tagan Shanxiong was most unwilling to make. Through observation along the way, he found that Xiao Chen was at least a 4th-layer demon master. The big move just now proved this point. Even if the 5 of them worked together to kill him, it would take some effort. They might even get injured. It was a mistake. Tagan Shanxiong took the lead and walked into the room. At the door of the room, there were some traces. Obviously, it had been attacked by a mechanism just now. However, it had now disappeared, and there was no other danger. The room was not big. There was only a small box in the room. Aside from that, there was nothing else. Tagan Shanxiong took a step forward and opened the box. When he saw what was inside, he revealed a look of pleasant surprise. However, there was also a trace of regret. Inside the box were the Outer Star Inc. meteors. Furthermore, there were 3 of them, 1 large and 2 small. This discovery made him somewhat depressed. It looked like there was not enough to go around. Perhaps he could only kill Xiao Chen. "How is it, Captain Tagan? Are the things inside the box Outer Star Inc. meteors?" Xiao Chen asked impatiently. Actually, he was also testing the waters. "That's right, it is the Outer Star Inc. meteors." Tagan Shanxiong nodded without batting an eyelid. Then, he let the other teammates come forward to take a look. Just as everyone was concentrating on looking, Tagan Shanxiong had already retreated to the side. He suddenly shouted, the number of outer star ink meteors is relatively small. Teammates, pay attention. Let's get rid of Xiao Chang first. The reason why he secretly hid and shouted was that he was afraid that Xiao Chen would suddenly attack him. However, now that Xiao Chen attacked his other teammates, it did not matter. These 3 outer star ink meteors were not enough even for the 5 of them. The large one was divided into 2 and the small one was only 4. If Xiao Chen killed one of his teammates for him, that would be perfect. It would also arouse the hatred of the other teammates. They would go all out and cooperate with him to kill Xiao Chen. Although Tagin Shanxiong had given the order, his 4 teammates were also stunned. After all, these people had been adventuring together in the past, but they had never worked together to kill someone. They had listened to Tagin Shanxiong, but they were caught off guard and could not react in time to kill someone. Sure enough, he had revealed his fox tail. Xiao Chen laughed coldly in his heart. However, he did not make a move. Instead, he shouted, "There are only 3 outer star ink meteors. Some of you will definitely not be able to obtain them. Who is willing to fight alongside me and kill the others?" Tagin Shanxiong's expression changed and he shouted, "Don't listen to him. Let's attack together. When the time comes, I can give it to you all." Tagin Shanxiong did not expect Xiao Chen to be so cunning. He actually knew how to make use of the number of outer star ink meteors. Therefore, he immediately responded and gave everyone some benefits. In his opinion, he would kill Xiao Chen first. At worst, he would kill Xue Qian. That way, he would have more. "I'm with you." Xue Qian pulled out a long saber from behind her back and held it in her hand. She stood together with Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was slightly taken aback. He did not expect it to be Xue Qian. He had merely shouted in a probing manner. At that time, even if there was no one to help, he was confident that he would be able to escape with the cooperation of the true Samadhi fire and the great demon in Xiaoma. However, he was afraid that he would miss the opportunity to obtain the outer star ink meteors. "Xue Qian, you be *tch. Tagin Shanxiong was furious. He did not expect that the first person to rebel would be Xue Qian, a woman who did not speak much. There are at most 4 outer star ink meteors. I'm afraid the person who will not be able to get them in the end will be me, right?" Xue Qian looked coldly at Tagin Shanxiong and said, "I know that you have long disliked me. You are very good." Tagin Shanxiong was furious, but he still said, "Baldy, Skinny, what about you? Are you with me?" Baldy and Skinny nodded. Since Xue Qian had sided with Xiao Chen, a fierce battle was inevitable. However, they were not afraid. Xue Qian was the weakest among them. She only had the strength of a first-stage martial master, while they were third-stage martial masters. Very good. I will deal with Xiao Chang. The 2 of you deal with Xue Qian. However, don't kill her. Cripple her. I want to let this woman have a good time. In a while, the 3 of us will take turns." Tagin Shanxiong's mouth flashed with a lewd smile. This kid Xiao Chang's martial arts are long-range attacks. He is definitely not good at close combat. You don't have to be afraid of him. I will deal with him. No problem. Baldy's eyes flashed with a lewd look. It was obvious that he had coveted Xue Qian for a long time. Now that there was a chance, how could he let it go? He immediately took the lead and grabbed at Xue Qian's chest with a lewd look. Xiao Chen frowned. This person was really shameless. However, Xiao Chen was still very grateful that Xue Qian had stood up for him. Naturally, he would not let her suffer a loss. He threw a fireball at Baldy's face. Phew, Baldy was instantly set on fire. He immediately became a flaming man as he cried out in pain. This time, Xiao Chen did not hold back. His strength had increased, so the strength of the true Samadhi fire had naturally increased. Before going to Dao Comprehension Sand Valley, Xiao Chen definitely did not have the confidence to burn Baldy to death. But now, Baldy only struggled and howled a few times before he stopped breathing. He fell to the ground and turned into a charred mass. Gradually, he turned into a wisp of green smoke and grayish-white ashes. What? Tagan Shanxiong was stunned. He did not expect Xiao Chen to be so powerful. He had directly attacked with a punch. He was afraid that if Xiao Chen attacked again and killed Skinny Man, he would be finished. He had to get rid of Xiao Chen as soon as possible. Xiao Chen had just activated the true Samadhi fire, so he did not have enough yuan qi in his body. He could only use the dark flame palm to deal with it. The dark flame palm struck out. However, although Xiao Chen was at the foundation establishment stage, he was only at the peak of the first stage of the foundation establishment stage. He was not on the same level as Tagan Shanxiong, who was at the fourth stage of the martial master stage. It might not be a problem for Xiao Chen to fight a third stage martial master. However, it was impossible for him to fight a fourth stage martial master. The two of them exchanged blows and retreated a few steps at the same time. However, Xiao Chen was clearly in a more sorry state. He vomited 2 mouthfuls of blood. As for Tagan Shanxiong, other than taking a few steps back to dissipate the force of Xiao Chen's palm, he was not injured. Ah! At the same time, Shui Qian's exclamation came from the other side. Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. This exclamation was very familiar. He felt as though he had heard it somewhere. However, when he turned his head, he saw Shui Qian being kicked away by Skinny Man. Shui Qian was only at the first stage of the martial master stage while Skinny Man was at the third stage. The difference between the two was too great. Shui Qian retreated repeatedly and was not Skinny Man's match. Xiao Chen was somewhat anxious. The Tagan Shanxiong in front of him was somewhat troublesome. As he healed himself, he ordered in Little Demon, "Go, help Shui Qian kill Skinny Man." You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.